The story begins with the wreck of a huge ship. Several boys hold tightly to the edges of the ship and groan from the weight and fatigue. One boy looks down excitedly and breathes heavily. Suddenly, he hears someone scream. His eyes widen. He sees a girl with blue hair falling down into the water in horror, stretching her hands up in the hope of being saved. The boy stretches out his hand excitedly. The girl also reaches out to him. Their hands touch. The boy's eyes suddenly open. Sweat is pouring down his face. He sees in front of him many school children who are having a noisy conversation. He looks around and realizes that he is standing in the middle of a noisy crowd. One of the boys is screaming that he does not want to die so early. The girl clutches her head and screams why the guy does not understand why it had to be him. The main character calmly walks through the crowd. No one pays attention to him. He calmly sits down and thinks out loud. So this means that he died. He sighs. This main character's name is Amamiya Hiroto. The ship they were traveling on sank during a terrorist attack, and so the Osaka high school students who were going on the trip all ended up dying. He reasons that this must be very shocking news. A certain Makita Aaron says that then it means they're basically dead. Now he thinks he should have played more. Makita Aaron approaches a girl with glasses and asks her what her plans are now. She apologizes and says that she doesn't have time for that. This girl's name is Shimada Izumi. She shouts to all the guys that she knows they are in shock because of what happened to them. But they all need to get together. A boy named Minami Asagi shouts that at a time like this, they should keep their minds calm. There is no use crying about something that has already happened. Sitting to the side, Junbei Murakami listens as he shouts that from now on. Although they don't know what to expect in the future, it's best to remain calm, and says that they are very energetic considering they are all dead. Minami Asagi yells at Murakami, his teacher, that everyone is starting to panic, so he asks him to help him. The teacher says it's no use because they've already said everything he could tell them. That girl with blue hair looks around warily in confusion. Her name is Naruse Narumi. Amamiya Hiroto sees her in a surprise. He says that in the end she was not saved, remembering her face when she fell into the water. He remembers the situation more clearly. He then grabbed her hand and told her to hold on tighter. He kept pulling her and telling her that everything was fine, asking her to climb up. However, the ship was skidding, after which Amamiya Hiroto capsized and fell into the water. The girl sees that he is falling and with tears in her eyes calls out to him, not having time to catch him. He, already dead, reasons that they are not close enough to be frank. It was his sudden decision. He simply could not let her die. Suddenly a voice is heard by Amamiya Hiroto. The voice says that among the souls that once lived, they are the chosen ones. A certain Rikudo Hijari wonders what is happening, where exactly they are. It is becoming too bright, they cover their faces with their hands. Then it shines brightly, someone takes out a phone and starts filming it. Tsuchiya Kanako, in tears, asks what it is. Is it really an angel? Will they finally explain to them what is happening? The man, Kanoe Miyagi, screams in fear. Shimada Izumi shouts for everyone to be quiet and suggests that they first listen to what he has to say. The bright silhouette says that his name is Rod Court. At this very moment he will grant each of them a special power, a new life and new luck, and then they will be reborn in a place that is significantly different from the earth on which they lived. Amamiya Hiroto is thinking about rebirth. Does he really mean reincarnation, another world? This is the first time he hears about such circumstances. Rodcourt says that they do not have to do this if they want. They can be revived as usual somewhere on Earth. In this case, however, they will not receive any special power. Luck from him and all their memory of this place will be completely destroyed. People began to discuss and think. Rodcourt says that now, for those who wish to be reborn on Earth, he asks to say their name. Amamiya Hiroto ponders that if he is reincarnated in a completely different world, he will receive special luck and talent. In other words, he will live a second life with memories of a past life. This is not bad at all, more like a dream. He looks up and thinks that very few people would refuse such conditions and raises his hand. Someone had already raised his hand before him, approached Rodcourt and said something. Rodcourt agreed with him and said that he would be transferred to the normal cycle of reincarnation. Suddenly, this man evaporates into thin air. People look at him in surprise and shout, pointing their fingers at him. Amamiya Hiroto thinks that he disappeared, which means he simply refused God's offer. Rodcourt asks if there is no one else. Then those whose names are called should step forward. He calls Endakoya. The boy steps forward. Rodcourt raises his hands, above which the balls of power are hovering, and says that now this is his power. These balls fly and stick into Endu's body, he screams. Rodcourt extends his hand and casts a spell of revival. He calls out each of the dead in turn, Sheihawin Mari, Kaito Kanata, Minami Asagi. Amamiya Hiroto sits to the side and muses that this might take some time. He thinks that there is no choice but to wait. He sighs because, if you think about it, his life has not been easy. His parents died when he was little. He has no brothers or sisters, no friends, no lover. The worst thing is living with his father's relatives who took him in. He looks down sadly because no one will shed a tear even if he dies. And these relatives will most likely get a big insurance after his death. So he thinks that they have more happiness than sadness now. It's not that he disagrees about his life up to this point. Perhaps he has a chance to live a second life in the literal sense, to receive a special ability from God, to be born in a completely different world into a normal, happy family. He wonders what else can be expected. Rodcourt calls his name, Amamiya Hiroto. He hears it and flinches. Rodcourt mutters his name, Amamiya Hiroto, sighing. Someone else stands up. Everyone looks at him. On the way, as he walks, he ponders why Amamiya. He hasn't heard that name before. He wonders if there was anyone in his class with the same name as him. He should have noticed it. He sees a boy approaching Rodcourt and thinks that this appearance of Amamiya Hiroto, it's not just a matter of name. He looks exactly the same as him. Rodcourt grants him the power with many balls. Amamiya Hiroto wonders what this amount is. All this time he saw that a person was only given 1 to 3 light balls, although God said that he would only give 2 to each of them. But this guy has already been given 8. This is what they call God's grace. After this guy, several more people are revived. Rodcourt claps his hands and sighs, as if after hard work. He notices Amamiya Hiroto sitting behind him and asks him in surprise who he is. Amamiya Hiroto looks at him indignantly. He says his name, Amamiya Hiroto. He repeats it in surprise and asks, "Not Amamiya Hiroto." Rodcourt specifies that his last name is Amamiya, as in Heavenly Vault, and his first name is Amamiya Hiroto, as in intellectual. Amamiya Hiroto confirms this. Rodcourt sighs and slaps his forehead, saying that this is bad and that he has made a terrible mistake. He says that he thought that he and this Amamiya guy were the same person, so he gave him all his power and he even got all the luck and life that should have been his. Amamiya Hiroto looks at him indifferently. Rodcourt panics and walks around saying that it's troublesome. It would be impossible to take his power from Amamiya, and he can't create another power to give it to him. No strength, no luck. Amamiya Hiroto guesses what this means and asks if he will get nothing and will have to start from scratch. Rodcourt says no, and that it is even worse. Rodcourt says that he should have saved his life, but fate is cruel and ironic, so he will have nothing to look forward to because his life will never be blessed. Amamiya Hiroto muses that then perhaps there is no point in reincarnating. He says then to let him be reborn on Earth like that guy. Rodcourt tells him that this is impossible because the time for choosing has long passed. Amamiya Hiroto does not understand him and is indignant. Suddenly his legs start to slowly disappear. Rodcourt tells him that the time of rebirth is almost over. He screams, "How can this be? He is the only one who has nothing and his life is doomed to be unhappy. What does this mean?" Rodcourt says that his soul will be different as compensation. Aside from his classmates, his soul remains an empty core. He says that in this rod, instead of ability, a huge amount of magic will be stored. He does not understand what kind of magic. Rodcourt goes on to say that, however, his compatibility with magic is extremely low. In other words, in the world he is about to be reborn into, he will not be able to use any magical element. Rodcourt throws up his hands. Amamiya Hiroto is indignant. Is this really all enormous magical power? But the inability to use magic. What kind of nonsense is this? Rodcourt tells him that he feels very sorry for him now. Without any abilities or luck, he will have extremely difficult journeys ahead. And with this inability to use magic, his luck will likely be limited. He will face much more isolation than he had in his previous life. Rodcourt tells him that he will have nothing but complete despair. He asks him not to give up, not to place blame on anyone. He must continue to look forward and live his life to the fullest. Amamiya Hiroto screams, "What kind of optimism is this?" He disappears. Rodcourt blurs before his eyes. Amamiya Hiroto screams from being electrocuted, he falls sharply, and a certain man in military uniform appears in front of him. The man tells him that this is what he gets for trying to stand up to them. He asks if he regrets it now. The man leaves and says that the next experiment will be in 30 minutes, so let him get ready. Here Amamiya Hiroto finally remembers. That day he died in a shipwreck. And because of the stupid mistake of that damned god, he was reincarnated in this world. Because of him, now he lies here and suffers from these actions. The world God sent him to was called Origin. It is somewhat similar to Earth, but combines science and magic. He was born to an unworthy woman soon after his birth. In order to have money for his not-the-best father, they sold him as an object, so of course he does not remember what his parents look like. After that, he was bought. He was bought by a research organization where they carried out numerous illegal experiments. A scientist tells another in a white coat that the results are negative and that one of them is unusual. He thinks the scientist hands him a document with a photo of Amamiya Hiroto and says that this is test object D01. His magical compatibility level is extremely low, to be precise. He has no talent for magic. He asks again about the lack of talent for magic. The scientist says that this is correct and explains. Every normal person has one of the 7 elements. Each one belongs to one of these elements: earth, water, fire, wind or light, life, space. And this child's body does not fit any of them. He does not even have any talent. The man asks if he really wants to say that he is even worse than the average person. He says that they cannot experiment with such mediocrity. It is a waste of money. The scientist says it is okay to get rid of the bad item, but there is one thing that needs to be carefully considered. He wonders what it is. He adjusts his glasses and says that, according to their considerations, this subject has an advantage that surpasses all the others. A huge magical source is stored in his body. When asked what he means, he replies that these are only his personal assumptions. It's not that this subject is incompatible with any element. There's a chance they haven't discovered that element yet. The other scientist's face freezes in horror. There is a dead rat on the table. Amamiya Hiroto stands in front of it, looks at his palm, and then extends it to the rat. The light comes on. His hand emits dark energy. Suddenly, the rat opens its eyes and comes to life. The scientist shouts happily. Amamiya Hiroto asks in surprise if he is really alive. The scientist says that it is not. The body of this rat has already stopped functioning, so this magic is not of the life cycle. The scientist says that, however, this magic is capable of controlling groups. Another scientist rejoices and shouts that they have finally discovered it. The legend is true. The element exists. The first one with glasses says that it is the element that controls the dead. They will call it death. The other one laughs and says that the element of death sounds good. Amamiya Hiroto is told to cheer up because he is the first death mage in the whole world. Both scientists laugh out loud again, scaring Amamiya Hiroto. Amamiya Hiroto is locked up again. After a while, they come to him and ask him to come over because they need to talk. In another room, a surprised Amamiya Hiroto asks again if this is true. The scientist tells him that it is true, even if he is not completely free. It all depends on his determination. If he agrees to be used as a test machine, he can experience freedom to a certain extent. Amamiya Hiroto reflects on a certain degree of freedom and asks if he will be able to go outside. He tells him that there are still a few things to note. Amamiya Hiroto listens to him attentively. He finally says that they have great hopes for his death magic. If he wants freedom, let him show them the result that they want to see. Amamiya Hiroto understands that if he can develop a new kind of magic, he will gain freedom. He looks at it with determination. A few days later, Amamiya Hiroto is practicing in the library on books. The scientists say that they and Amamiya Hiroto are on schedule. After listening to his conditions, he believed in everything without a doubt. And now he puts more effort into creating a new spell. A huge silhouette from books appears in front of Amamiya Hiroto. Scientists are sure that the more this child interacts with magic, the more terrible he becomes. Another scientist laughs at his words and asks what could frighten a little boy, both his heart and his brain, to set up bombs in case of any rebellious actions, and Amamiya Hiroto himself understands this perfectly well. They also installed a small tracking device to prevent him from escaping, and his right eye was replaced with an artificial one with a special camera. There is also a secret recording device installed inside his ears and mouth. No matter how small the sound is, they can still hear it. The amount of food he consumes is kept to a minimum to prevent any abnormal physical abilities from developing, and he is also forbidden to leave his room except during experiments. The other scientist responds to this information by shouting that he already knows this, but he says that he can still control magic at will. Isn't that too risky for them? The other one with glasses says that maybe he is thinking about it too much. Finally, he agrees with him and asks if he has any suggestions. After some time, Amamiya Hiroto finds himself in some room that looks like a laboratory. He asks where he is. Aren't they going to continue developing his new spell? The scientist in glasses says that this is true, but before that they will just examine his body a little. He does not understand it. The scientist leans over and tells him not to worry, and that it will all be over soon. They just want to make sure his body doesn't have an unnatural reaction from the death element. After all, it is a completely new element for them, so they cannot be sure whether this magic can harm the user's body or not. Amamiya Hiroto lies down on the couch. His arms and legs are suddenly locked. He panics and screams. What is this? Why is he tying him up? He laughs and tells him not to worry about it. He offers to take care of everything else. Doctors in masks approach him from behind. They come close to him and begin to stretch out their hands. Amamiya Hiroto, with eyes full of horror, begins to resist with a trembling voice. After a while, Hiroto wakes up and asks mentally what happened to him. The scientist hears his thoughts and asks how he understood it. He offers to have a snack. Amamiya Hiroto does not understand and asks to wait. He feels that something is wrong. He cannot speak, cannot move his own body. He asks if this is some kind of anesthesia. Amamiya Hiroto realizes that he can still clearly feel his body. Another scientist approaches the scientist and asks how Amamiya Hiroto is. He replies that as far as he can see, the operation was a success. He says that the ability to control his body and magic is completely impaired. From this moment on, he cannot even move a finger, let alone use magic. Amamiya Hiroto sits all bandaged up in a wheelchair and looks down emotionlessly. The scientist in glasses says that now control is completely in their hands, and the development of magic will continue without any obstacles. The second scientist approaches him and says that he has done a good job. Amamiya Hiroto hears all this. He sighs and says that Amamiya Hiroto is a death mage who can control the undead despite being alive. Now he only exists to be a puppet for other people. What an irony. Amamiya Hiroto thinks to himself. Is he joking? His body doesn't move at all, so now he can only live to be their test machine until his life is cut short. He thinks about his consciousness. He still clearly feels his body. He begins to resist and think that he does not want to be like this. He cannot bear it anymore. He asks for help, screams mentally, and calls for someone to help him. The scientist comes up to him with a spoon of food and tells him to open his mouth. He has a nasty smile on his face. 10 years have passed since then. Two people in lab coats approach the door. The one with glasses tells the other scientist with dark hair that this is his cell. The doors open. The scientist freezes in shock. Amamiya Hiroto has changed. He is now so thin that only bones are visible. His hair has turned gray. The scientist in glasses introduces him as the first death mage that has ever existed in this world. After these words, he leaves, saying that he will then leave the rest to him. The new scientist tells him that he has understood him. He turns towards Amamiya Hiroto and thinks that this is it. He can finally uncover the secret of this type of magic that he has never seen. With this achievement, he might even surpass his predecessors. Amamiya Hiroto opens his eyes. He sees in front of him not only the new scientist, but also the spirits of some girls. A blonde woman calls him by name. Amamiya Hiroto recognizes her and says that they came here again. They ask him how he is doing. He replies that he is doing well. Considering that they are all spirits, there is no need to answer this question. The shorter girl turns towards the scientist and says that it seems that the young man there is new. They express hope that his methods will be better. Amamiya Hiroto tells them, not knowing how to say it, he doesn't think they understand how rotten these people are. They've performed countless experiments on his body. Repeatedly, it's not just painful, it's unbearable. The girl apologizes to him and says that they can't help him anymore, but they are mostly souls now. But maybe they will figure out how to escape for him. Amamiya Hiroto tells them not to worry about it, since being able to communicate with someone in this place is enough for him. Without them, these guys, he would have no one to talk to for the last 10 years. His mind could go crazy because of this loneliness. The blonde says that she's glad to be of use to him anyway, but Amamiya also helped them calm down. The girl next to her smiles and says that it is true. For some reason, they still couldn't transform, and that day they all ended up here. Amamiya Hiroto says that maybe it was because of his death magic. Ever since he learned how to use it, he started seeing spirits. Maybe that's what brought them here. The spirit of a dog is petting him. The girl says that there are still many souls here besides them. Everyone loves him and wants him to get out of here. But in their current state, it seems they can't do anything useful. They say that they are very sorry. Amamiya Hiroto doesn't answer. The girls are worried. They ask him what's the matter. Is he really in pain? He replies that it doesn't hurt. He just remembered something from his old memories. Naruse, Narumi, and the others. He wonders what they are doing now. If it were people who received power from this god, they could very well get him out of here. But no one came. Here, suddenly, the new scientist slaps the table, cursing everything around him. A whole month has already passed, but he cannot come up with a clear result. If everything goes on like this, then he will eventually be thrown out of this position. The scientist turns to Amamiya Hiroto and punches him in the face, calling him useless. Amamiya Hiroto loses his balance and simply falls face down. The mad scientist continues to scream and pull his hair. The spirit of that blonde asks Amamiya Hiroto if he's okay. Amamiya Hiroto replies that he was hit so hard that his face hurts as if he was in hell right now. The little girl is indignant and shouts at the scientist. How dare he do this to Amamiya Hiroto? The scientist, in madness, continues to think. Maybe if he does this, it will release his limits and the magic will reach its full power. Every action of the scientist makes Amamiya Hiroto suffer. He tries to scream, but it doesn't work. He only sighs frequently. The spirit of a dog barks at a scientist. The spirit of a little girl in panic asks the scientist what he's doing. Let him stop it immediately. She wants to attack the scientist, but realizes that she is simply passing through the body of the scientist, who continues to experiment. Spirit bows her head and asks Amamiya Hiroto for forgiveness, because there is nothing they can do to stop this madman. The scientist looks away from the monitor in surprise and marvels at the amount of magic the death mage Amamiya Hiroto has. He screams that it's still growing. It's incredible. It's at 10 relo 0 times more powerful than the current strongest mage in the world. He says that this guy is a real monster and starts laughing. Amamiya Hiroto experiences the last sensation and falls lifelessly to the floor, his eyes sliding upward. The scientist turns to look at him, gets up from his chair and approaches him. He asks in horror if he is joking, if he is really dead. He panics and asks him to stop joking, to let him die. He thinks about his research. What will happen to his research now? He sees that magic is still emanating from his fingers. The scientist grabs his head, but his attention is drawn to a signal from the computer. He doesn't understand what kind of reaction this is. His body has already stopped all functions. But the magical power is still growing. He had never seen anything like it before. He finally found it. With this, his research could. Here, Amamiya Hiroto's eyes suddenly open, and he doesn't have time to react before Amamiya Hiroto's hands reach for his neck. His hands are tightly squeezing his neck. Foam is flowing from the scientist's mouth. He asks him with his last strength to stop. But black eyes look at him with hatred. The scientist lets out his last breath. Amamiya Hiroto puts the scientist down. His body falls lifelessly. The blonde spirit calls his name. Suddenly, Amamiya Hiroto starts laughing. He looks at his palms and says that finally he was able to get it back. He is talking about his whole body. He finishes off the scientist's body with his fist and goes to those two scientists. They don't understand what this means. Haven't they severed all ties with his body? They panic and say that this cannot happen and that the situation should not have happened. Amamiya Hiroto looks at them and remembers all the experiments and cruelties that were done by them. He only repeats the word kill in his head. He looks at them and says that he will kill them all. The scientist holds out a gun and shouts at him not to come near him. He fires bullets, but Amamiya Hiroto does not stop anything. The scientist with glasses says that he cannot be killed. It is impossible because his body is already dead. Maybe that is why. As his body ceased to function, the soul was finally freed from its prison and was able to gain full control over the enormous magical power. He transformed himself into an undead and took control of his body. The scientist suddenly starts laughing and shouts that this is amazing because with this, his power is even far beyond their imagination. With one blow, Amamiya Hiroto decapitates him. He falls lifeless with a smile still on his face. Amamiya Hiroto sighs, looks at the corpse, and then smiles in pleasure. A crowd of masked doctors avoid him and ask him not to do this. Amamiya Hiroto raises his hand and throws all the metal instruments at the doctors, causing them to scream and groan. He is shot at by guards, but he does not die. Power overflows his body. He now understands what it is like to use magic at will. This is what he feels when he releases his power to the fullest. He approaches some doors and assumes that there are survivors here. Using his power, he opens the doors. He sees what he sees and his eyes widen. He sees numerous people unconscious on beds and in liquid. He sees that they were trying to create another death mage besides him. He sees a girl with her eyes open. He turns to her and asks, "She can't move either, he's right." The girl doesn't answer. He uses his magic and tells her that if they want to escape, they should follow him. He comes out with the people and says that perhaps there are still enemies left. He will go forward, and they should follow him, but not forget to keep their distance. He runs and finally comes out, where numerous soldiers with weapons and in uniforms are standing. They all look like his acquaintances from the shipwreck. He starts to cry and think that they are all here, that they came to save him even though it took quite a while, to be honest. But he always believed that they would eventually meet again. His dream came true. He calls out to them warmly, but someone shouts at the others to get ready, after which everyone uses their magic and attacks him. He doesn't understand why they are attacking him. He is their classmate. He is one of them. Don't they remember? Amamiya Hiroto falls to the ground, shot by their magic. One of them says that everything happened unexpectedly fast. They were told that an incredibly powerful undead had appeared there. They killed it without even using all their power. One says that it is reasonable, since there are 30 heroes out of 100. Nothing can stop such a team. He turns to Murakami and asks if he is right in calling him sensei. He says that he told him to stop calling him sensei. One of them says that the reason they were able to defeat him without any difficulty is because the undead creature had let down its defense. Amamiya Hiroto hears all of this. The girl he once saved says that he personally destroyed all the laboratory staff, death magic. She calls it a disgusting force. Someone suggests that maybe he wants everything to end this way. After all, he is one of the experiments in this lab. The girl turns to the guy, calls him Amamiya Hiroto, and says that maybe he is right. Amamiya Hiroto realizes that this is the one who took all his power. The girl says that at least from now on he will not feel any pain. He offers to destroy Amamiya Hiroto altogether. Amamiya tells her that he understands and says that it is the least they can do for him. He turns to Narumi and offers to do this. She agrees. Both extend their hand to Amamiya Hiroto, the death mage. Amamiya Hiroto angrily thinks, is he really joking? Why does the weight depend only on him? Moreover, why is he even here? He took everything that should have been his, and now he stands here with his heroic face. He sees the other guys having fun with each other in a calm atmosphere and decides that he will kill him. Kill them all, even if he can reincarnate. He will never forgive him. Amamiya Hiroto. Amamiya Hiroto disappears and Road Corte appears before him and says that, as he expected, he did not last long. He calls Amamiya Hiroto by name and turns to face him. In madness and anger, Amamiya Hiroto lunges at him with his fists, but fails to hit him and passes through Road Corte. He quenches his fists in anger and asks him why he sent him away. Now can he still call himself a god because his second life is complete hell? He screams at him that it was his mistake. He threw him into an even worse nightmare than in his previous life. Rotcourt says that it is true that he treated him so terribly, but at least he will be able to live happily in the next life. Amamiya Hiroto doesn't understand what next life he's talking about. He asks if he really means there's a third chance. Rodcourt replies that this is correct, and that this world is called Lambda. Amamiya Hiroto asks if this is true, that he will be the first to reincarnate there. He screams that then he will get the maximum benefit from this. He will finally be able to kill them all. He reaches out to the god and tells him in a commanding tone to give him some of his special abilities. Since there is no one else here for anyone to make a mistake, Rodcourt tells him that unfortunately he can't give him any power. He holds out his hand. Amamiya Hiroto begins to disappear again. He indignantly shouts what he means. Why is he the only one who would need get anything? Why him again? God replies that it is because he cannot allow him to kill his classmates, and he looks at him in surprise. Rodcourt explains that, compared to the other world he is responsible for, Lambda is lagging behind in development. The reason he is giving him this chance is so that he can build his world with his own hands. He gives him advice to look at his second life in Origin as an experience. Maybe he can see it as a training period. Amamiya Hiroto looks at him with hatred and says that it was a real hell, and he dares to call it training. Rodcourt says that he would like to express his deepest gratitude to him for his contribution to the development of a new element in magic that has enhanced the growth of Origin. He hopes that he can forgive him for not giving him proper credit for his unfortunate second life. Amamiya Hiroto yells at him to stop joking and that he will never forgive him. Then a dark power bursts out of his mouth. Rodcourt holds out his hand and says that this is the curse he will give him, which cannot be broken. He really hopes that he can give up this vengeful thought and choose a better way to end his next life. He assures that Amamiya Hiroto can take his word for it. He will relieve the pain he experienced when he reaches his fourth life, and then he can return to his normal cycle of reincarnation. Rodcourt disappears before his eyes. He hears a certain female voice. He sees a blonde with elven ears in front of him. She looks at him lovingly and says that Mandalia is always so calm. She thinks it is less troublesome for her, but he must cry from time to time. Amamiya Hiroto was reborn in Lambda. He was cursed and is now born as a small child with the same elf ears. Baby Amamiya Hiroto pats his stomach and tries to say something, but only baby sounds come out of his mouth. The woman picks him up, calls him Wendell, and tells him it's time to get up, suggesting that he's hungry. She pulls him towards her and says it's time to eat. Amamiya Hiroto reluctantly touches the woman and looks away. A woman tries some food and says it's delicious. Here comes an explanation of what's what. This place, God called it Lambda. Amamiya Hiroto is thinking, just look at him. He is absolutely helpless, because he can't even speak. He makes sounds. The elf asks him, what is it? Amamiya Hiroto assumes that this woman is his mother. He hears the name Wendell and assumes that's what he's called in this world, comparing it to how in his past life he had an experiment code instead of a name. The new one doesn't sound so bad. He extends his light-skinned palm to his mother's dark-skinned face and looks at her questioningly. She asks him if he is embarrassed that they have different skin colors. She says that Wendell is very smart since he can distinguish such things at his age. She explains that his skin color is from his own father. She tells him not to worry because he is still Darcia's child. Amamiya Hiroto understands, returning to the remnants of memory in his head. Preserved from the time before Lambda, in this world there is a race that is very similar to humans. They are called elves. The mother pats Amamiya Hiroto on the back, calming him down. Returning to this woman who introduced herself as Darcia, there is a chance that she is a dark elf. Then what race could his father be? She continues to pat him lightly on the back and speaks more quietly. He wonders to himself if she could stop speaking so quietly, but it's actually quite effective. He wakes up and is told he's amazing because he can sit up on his own. Darcia strokes his head. Amamiya Hiroto understands that he was praised. It seems that his mother realized that he is much smarter than ordinary children, but she does not despise a strange child like him. And then the mother said one phrase, as expected from the child of his father. Amamiya Hiroto realizes that he has never seen his father, and he is interested in him. However, he did not have a father in his past or the life before, and to be encouraged by someone else was a feeling he had never experienced before. Darcia keeps praising him, telling him he's wonderful and patting him on the head. Despite everything, his mother praised him, making him even happier. But he wants to be praised even more. He thinks maybe he should start crawling. He suddenly gets up on his hands and feet, starts crawling and mentally tells his mother to look at him. Darcia is surprised and asks if he is trying to crawl. Suddenly, Amamiya Hiroto falls on his forehead. Darcia says that in her opinion it is still too early for him. She says that now she is interested in what his status looks like. He does not understand what she is talking about. This is real life, by the way. not some kind of game. Suddenly, he actually sees the status and is surprised that it just popped up in front of his face. Is this really a status screen? He doesn't believe that there really are such signs in this world. What kind of world is this? He sighs and suggests just looking at it. He sees that his race is a dhampir. He assumes that he is a half-vampire. He wonders if this means his father is a vampire. He imagines his father with fangs and a dark cloak. Thinking about it, he realized that the house looked rather strange. At first glance, it was a cave. Several months had passed since his birth, but no one had come here. He believes that being a child with vampire blood in his veins is the reason he became a target. In other words, his mother hid him here to protect him from the outside world. Assessing the situation, he would say that most likely his father is no longer alive. He then looks at his characteristics. He sees that his magic points are equal to 1 billion, a number so long that it even goes beyond the line of the screen. He remembers Rockdorth's words that his soul will be different as a sign of compensation. Unlike the souls of his classmates, his will be like an empty core, and in this core, instead of abilities, an incredible amount of magic will be collected. He understands that this is what that old man was talking about. It's true, because these numbers are incredible for an ordinary child. But Rodcourt said that there would be no magic, which means he decides to just check right away whether his guess is correct or not. He holds out his small palms and realizes that he cannot use his death magic. He wonders if it's because he's still small, or if it's because he's on Lambda and needs to find a different type of magic. He sees his curse, which says that it is impossible to restore experience points from past lives. So that is why he can no longer use magic, even if he understands what it is. He realizes that he shouldn't have more than one. He wonders if Rodcourt wants him to end his life himself or what. But he still has other ways to study magic. He won't sit around waiting for death like Rodcourt wants. Suddenly, his stomach starts to rumble. Darcia asks if he is hungry again. She thinks it is time to eat again. He wonders if it's starting again. He muses that if he were the teenager he once was, that sigh would make him nervous. But he still has a child's body, so it won't react when he sees a woman's body. Darcia stretches out his hands and picks him up. Amamiya Hiroto thinks, no matter what they think of him, but saying this to a guy like him, who looks like a child and eats without strange thoughts, is a real test. Amamiya Hiroto looks away. Darcia tells him that he is quite capricious. She asks if he really hates her milk that much. He shakes his head in panic and says, "No way, definitely not. Honestly, it's delicious." He sighs and starts to eat. It seems he has no choice but to make concessions. She looks at his mouth and sees that his fangs are starting to grow. Even though she thinks it's wrong, she asks him to wait and says that she shot a rabbit while hunting yesterday and starts looking for it. She pulls out the rabbit and cuts it up right in front of his eyes. She deliberately collects blood from it. She hands a plate of blood to Amamiya Hiroto and tells him to drink it. He wonders in surprise if she's serious. He feels that the blood smells like iron, forcing children to drink the blood of animals, so this is how children are raised in this world. Darcia sees that he has turned his head away and begins to look at him sadly. He silently asks her not to look at him with such eyes, then decides to drink it. He drinks it, and to his surprise, he realizes that it is delicious. Even if the foul smell is inevitable, he still drinks it with pleasure. He wipes the blood from his mouth and realizes that he hasn't drunk anything but his mother's milk, so everything is fine. She strokes his head and says that since Wendell is exactly like his father, he can eat blood. She explains that it is not necessary to drink it every day, so she asks him to promise that he will drink it only when she is around, even if he is hungry. Amamiya Hiroto realizes that he is indeed a half-vampire, and his mother realizes that dhampirs are not welcomed by human society and therefore worries about him. Mother leaves because it is time to put things in order. Instead of living with a problem like her, he realizes that Mother can get rid of his burden. He understands that she does not do this, and, apparently, has never thought about it even once. At least that is what he thinks. The mother slaps her hands in different directions, trying to kill the insect. He sighs and says that he can't concentrate while these midges are flying around. Here Amamiya Hiroto stretches out his little hand and kills the midge. The mother looks at him in surprise and sees the midge fall. Amamiya Hiroto says some syllables. Now he has access to a new skill called elimination of microorganisms. Darcia suddenly walks up to him and asks if it was him. She thinks it's amazing that he can use magic at such a young age. She calls him a prodigy. It seems like he can still use death magic even in this world, even though it's a familiar spell. It feels completely new after what he learned in his previous life. Getting praise from his mother is an achievement that makes him extremely proud of himself. He sees his mother's smile. He thinks that being happy is not enough to get revenge. He needs more power. Because these guys are just enjoying themselves. They are all people who received powers from God. At night, Amamiya Hiroto sleeps with his mother. He thinks with his eyes open that this old man, that is Rod Court, specially sent him to Landa, making this world even more developed. He thinks it's fair that he doesn't let him do whatever he wants, after he said he wanted to kill the rest of the reincarnated. Even when he finds a way to wash away the curse and survive on his own, he will drag everyone else here again and kill him, so the fight will be useless. The mother suddenly wakes up and looks at him. She starts poking him on the cheek, pulling and reaching out to tickle him. She tickles him and asks how he likes it. She offers to check how long he will laugh. He does not understand what his mother is doing, what she is even thinking about. His mother says that Wendell never shows emotion because he neither cries nor laughs. But if you think about it, from the very moment he arrived on Earth, he never showed his feelings on his face. He wonders if this is part of the curse. How could someone come up with such a boring curse? Then Darcia tells him that she really loves him, but it seems he hasn't felt it yet. These words surprise Amamiya Hiroto. The next day, Darcia holds Amamiya Hiroto in her hand and opens the door with her other hand. She tells him that she is very sorry if this hurts. She holds his palm and tries to expose it to sunlight. Nothing happens. Darcia is happy and says what a relief it is. She is so glad that he does not have a vampire weakness. Here Amamiya Hiroto finally understands that his father is a vampire, which means that he is not affected by the sun because he has more than just vampire blood. He realizes that in any case, a dhampir is still a target for everyone and everything in this world. He looks at his mother. He muses that if that's the case, then when bad things start to happen, he's not sure anyone will be on her side. She opens the door all the way and asks why they don't go outside and get some fresh air. As soon as they go outside, Amamiya Hiroto, who was sitting deep inside the baby's body, looks up and is surprised. They go out into the garden. Full of greenery, a soft breeze blows. Butterflies fly everywhere. The sun's rays touch his body. The birds sing. Darcia says that the weather is really nice today. Amamiya Hiroto's eyes fill with tears and then he starts crying. Darcia is surprised by his crying, then hugs him and says that everything is okay and that everything will be fine. She strokes him and says that one day he will be able to return to the settlement of the Dark Elves, her homeland, and then he will be finally free and will do what he wants. Little Amamiya Hiroto keeps telling himself that he loves his mother. He never dreamed of saying these words to a woman before, like now. He realizes that the curse prevents him from showing emotions. It is even more painful than he expected. At night, he again thinks that if she stays with him, she will bring trouble upon herself. On the day when he can speak, he decides to tell her everything. Even if it means she has to stay away from him, he still doesn't have a choice. But if he can continue to live like this, live a happy life with his mother, he doesn't need a fourth life. He keeps remembering Rockdorth's words that he hopes he will forget about this vengeful thought and choose a better way to end his next life. He gave him his word that he would spare him the pain that would befall him when he was reborn for the fourth time and erase all his memory, after which he would return to the normal cycle of reincarnation. Amamiya Hiroto says to himself that he refuses to die. He doesn't need a fourth life. He just wants to live with his mother for the rest of this life. The next day, the sun is shining brightly. Darcia kisses him on the forehead and says that she needs to step away for a while. She asks him to be a good boy and wait for her here. She goes out the door. Amamiya crawls to the door and watches her go. Sometimes she would secretly go to the nearby villages, like today, to prepare for the long journey that awaited them further. She would buy everything necessary for life. At this time, he casts spells and believes that at this time he needs to train his magic skills. He is told again that he has access to the skill of eliminating microorganisms, and he understands that he doesn't get it. A rabbit on a saucer and says he is so hungry. He thinks that with this skill, maybe he can drink blood without causing harm. But one day, no matter how long he waited, his mother did not return. He still sat by the door and stared into space. The sun is still shining. Amamiya Hiroto wakes up alone in his bed. He crawls to the door again. He looks around and realizes that Mom still hasn't returned. He wonders if he should find her. It might be a little dangerous. Although if Mom doesn't return soon, at this rate he will die of starvation. Besides why he has such a bad feeling, if he really wants to go out, he needs to prepare first. He uses his ability and tells the dead rabbit to get up. The rabbit opens its eye and jumps. Amamiya Hiroto thinks it's great. The undead are created by a death spell, capturing nearby spirits and placing them into a corpse, from which they become undead. But at his current level, getting them moving is the best he can do. But one rabbit isn't enough. He orders all the things in the room to stand up. He even lifts the chairs, the bed, asking them to serve his cause. Let them just hurry up and wake up already. He sits wearily, realizing that he spent 1 million magic on this. He must say that it is quite tedious work. He grabs the rabbit by the ears and tells it that it needs to recharge. He sinks his teeth into its body and feeds. He sighs after dinner and smiles contentedly. The rabbit has already turned into an undead. A little later, deer are feeding on grass outside. The deer raises its head and sees a cart with the undead. At the head sits Amamiya Hiroto. Next to him are rabbits. The cart is built on a bed and chairs. Next to the cart are the skeletons of people and an elk. Amamiya Hiroto sighs and muses that this might be a little more difficult than he thought. He's managing all the furniture and corpses in the forest. If it was just one undead, it would be too weak and would be broken into pieces even by a farmer's hoe. But with such a creepy undead army like this, he no longer needed to worry about being attacked by wild beasts. An insect flies to him, the same midge, and lands on his hand. Amamiya Hiroto asks if he has anything to report, since he has returned. The midge buzzes indignantly. Amamiya Hiroto understands him and asks if he knows how to get to the city. Amamiya Hiroto thinks that, judging by the distance, it is a bit far from here. He needs to speed up the pace, and then gives everyone else the order to move forward. They come to some high brick walls. He looks out from the bushes and thinks finally they are here. He looks around and thinks that if he brings these monsters to the gate, it will surely cause unwanted problems. He tells his squad that they will stay here and wait for his signal. He orders the skeletal monkey to carry him. The skeletons don't understand who he told. Amamiya Hiroto asks what's wrong. He points to one and says that he's talking to him. Since he's just a pile of bones now, he'll call him a skeleton monkey. He rides on the back of the skeletal monkey and goes to the walls. His death magic is used to control the undead and corpses. Even if the bricks are not living beings, if he puts a living soul into them, they will also turn into undead. He holds out his hand and gives the order to open a small passage for them to pass through. One brick breaks, then several, giving him a passage. He lets the skeletal monkey go forward and offers to choose deserted passages. He looks at his hand, covered in insects, and orders them to hurry and find his mother, to gather all the information they can find about her. They themselves are walking down the street. Amamiya Hiroto notices a certain silhouette. He assumes that it is a human soul. Spirits, as a rule, disappear shortly after their death. But he thinks that this one still has some memories. He asks the spirit if he has seen his mother. He describes her as a long-haired blonde dark elf. The spirit answers him that she is in the city square. He asks in surprise if this is true. He tells the skeletal monkey to run quickly to the town square. Darcia is standing by the fountain. He sees her and thinks it's her. He's so happy he shouts to her. She turns to him and recognizes him. However, her body is translucent, and Amamiya Hiroto realizes that she is no longer alive. Darcia tells him that she is very sorry, but she did not succeed. Amamiya Hiroto asks her how this could happen. She asks about his voice. Is it really his voice? Maybe it's because she's a spirit now and she can finally hear Wenliel's voice. Asks her what happened here. She apologizes for not telling him about it. She tried to hide him in the elven village, but it seems the church found out about her arrival here. They surrounded her as soon as she entered. Amamiya Hiroto asks her if they really killed her right here. He sees that her body is covered in burns and wounds. She abruptly tells him that he needs to run away right now. She talks about his eyes. He inherited the ruby color of his eyes from his father and the purple color from her. As soon as they see him once, they will immediately know about his dhampir identity. Amamiya Hiroto shakes his head and says that he will not run away. He asks her again who killed her, what their names are, what they did to her. She doesn't want to answer. Amamiya Hiroto demands an answer from her. Then suddenly she raises her eyes and looks at him. This is death magic. Charm, using it. Her soul could not disobey his order, so he told. When she reached the city, she was ambushed by Baronet Bastero's men, along with the priests of the church, and there were adventurers hired to hunt her. One gave the order to seize her. She shot an arrow at one of the adventurers. One shouts that this vile witch gave birth to a vampire descendant. The adventurer then told the others to step back because the rainbow sword were the ones who would be her opponents. She looks at the guy in surprise, who tells her that it's nothing personal but asks her to fight him. Darcia said that she fought everyone with everything she had, but her arrows and magic were no match for these adventurers. After that, she was captured by the church. They beat her in captivity and asked where this dhampir child was, calling her an evil witch. She was still silent. The man told her that she was stubborn and asked if this was not enough for her. Then he lit a flame and beat her with fire. But she remained silent, not giving in to their torture. Then the church realized that there was no point in interrogating her any longer, so they took her out into the square and set her on fire, like they burn witches. Then suddenly a notification comes that a new skill of mental corruption has been learned by him. He begins to understand that it was him. He was the one because of whom she got into this situation. If he had gone to look for her earlier, if he had tried to study magic, he starts crying and thinking if only he was stronger she wouldn't have died like this. Then a notification comes that his mental corruption skill has risen to level 2. Here the insects fly towards him. He understands that they have returned from searching for information. Here, the beetles make sounds, where he says that the public execution today looked quite exciting. Amamiya Hiroto understands that they are now eavesdropping from afar. One says that even if it was not the vampire himself, even this woman would be enough to get the reward he needs. After all, he managed to attract the attention of His Majesty and the church to him. Another tells him that he believes the day when he officially becomes a baron will not be long in coming. He takes a sip of the drink and asks him not to talk like that. Here he is told that his mental corruption skill has risen to level 3. He overhears another conversation. The priest asks about the dhampir hunt. He asks if he's not just a child. Can't they just ignore him? He's been separated from his mother for over 4 days. He's probably starving to death right now. Another baron shouts to High Priest Golden not to let his guard down and quickly approaches them. This man with a gray beard says that despite the fact that he is a child, he is still a carrier of vampire blood who knows what disgusting abilities this child could have inherited from his father. He shouts that it is fine if his father is just a servant. But what if he is one of the purebloods? What will they do then? The priests bow to him and say that they are sorry. This serf says that they can't rely on the power of the rainbow sword all the time. And he doesn't think that guy has any intention of working with them any further, so adventurers are different from them since they are followers of judgment and fate. He gives orders to his subordinates to find the hunters in this city and tell them to lead them. Tell the baronet to send his men. The servants obey him. Amamiya Hiroto's skill rises to level 4. Someone at the table discusses how today's work was quite easy. These adventurers are enjoying the food. One says that it is quite troublesome when dark elf women use bow and magic at the same time. Another one says that no one of D-class level can resist them. He asks the waitress to bring another plate. One adventurer who fought with Darcia sits sadly. His name is Heinz. The girl asks him what's the matter and that he looks strange. Heinz replies that it's nothing like that. He just doesn't feel very well. They ask him if he really feels sorry for this woman. Another man tells Heinz that he is the leader of a group of B-class adventurers. He asks him not to say such naive words. The girl says that she doesn't know whether Darcia was seduced by the vampire or she simply wished for immortality, but it's none of his business. That woman got what she deserved. And besides, it was he who decided to accept this request. She asks Heinz if she should remind him of this. He averts his gaze and says that he received a letter from the baronet himself, so nothing can help here. Another adventurer hugs him and tells him to use his hard-earned money to have a little fun. He asks if this isn't the same time they feasted on monster meat during their hunts. He also knows it's a way to mourn her soul. Amamiya Hiroto's skill rises to level 5. He listens to another conversation. The men clink their drinks and toast the health of the baronet and the high priest. One of them teases and adds that it is also for the victory of the vile Orbi. The other man is indignant. Who did he call vile? He laughs and says that of course it is him. They are so proud that he is their partner. As soon as he confessed to this dark elf, she immediately rejected him, and then he went on a cruel hunt to pursue her. Another one tells him to shut up and says it's because he needed to find out if she was a witch from the wanted poster. The first one says that it's such a waste to burn such beauty. The second adds that they won't get any profit from hunting the dhampir tomorrow with all the knights running around them. But they will receive some coins for accompanying them. Another asks him what he is talking about because they will definitely gain a huge fortune from this, because they will be the ones to catch this dhampir child. The two look at him and ask if he didn't tell them where the child was. He replies that he did. They shout that it was a smart move. If they get their hands on him, they can sell him to the church, the mages, or the merchants, whoever bids the highest. His skill rises to level 6 again. Amamiya Hiroto hears thoughts that if he causes trouble, they will burn him, just like that witch. He hears talk about how they won't be able to sleep peacefully at night if the child finds out what they did to his mother. Is this vampire coming for revenge? They curse the witch because she has brought them nothing but trouble. His skill rises to level 7. He thinks in horror about this cruel world. Is this really the world that God wants Amamiya Hiroto to help? In none of his lives has he felt happy. He begins to get angry and wonders why he is taking everything from him. Darcia tells him that she is sorry, but she is at her limit. With tears in his eyes, Amamiya Hiroto asks her to wait, to be patient a little longer. He begs her not to leave him. Darcia also cries and again says that she is sorry. She would really like to stay with him for a little longer. She holds out her hands to him and says that she wants to see her son grow up and become a man, and then he will marry the woman he loves, have a child, and she wants to witness all of this. She wants to see him happy. His skill keeps rising and finally reaches the limit of development. He sharply tells his mother that he understood her. He starts to glow all over. Darcia doesn't understand what's going on. Amamiya Hiroto decided to give her all the mana he has down to the last drop. Amamiya Hiroto looks around. He must find something in which he could save her soul. If it is a random object, then after that it will be difficult to restore her consciousness. He needs to find something else. He sees a skeletal monkey nearby. It is trying to find something. Eventually the monkey comes up to him and holds out something. He sees the bone and realizes that these are pieces of her bones, so this might work. He asks his mother to come in here. He clenches his fist. Hiroto managed to save her soul from disappearing. Someday, he will find a completely new body for her. He orders the skeletal monkey to go back. He mentally apologizes to his mother because he doesn't have any mana left to take revenge right now. He's at his limit. He vows that those who made her suffer will pay in full for it. He goes back and tells everyone to just wait. He will not let anyone escape. In the morning, Amamiya Hiroto is already sitting on his bed and looking up. His mother runs up to him and asks if he is already awake. He wishes her good morning. She tells him that he slept well. It is already noon. Yesterday was a very hard day, but she is glad that he is okay. Amamiya Hiroto says he thought he was going to die. Thanks to a soaking wet raccoon he caught with a hanging trap he created, he didn't have to starve to death in the rain. The mother smiles and says that, unfortunately, she is already dead. Amamiya Hiroto remembers asking his mother to enter the bone. At that moment, his mother decided not to stay in this world. He was able to stop her thanks to the effect of the death charm skill. Maybe because she was already dead, or maybe she was afraid of the shock of losing her own son. Here, Amamiya Hiroto asks his mother for forgiveness. He promises her that someday he will bring her back to life, and until then, let her not think about disappearing. She smiles and tells him that she will always be with him. Amamiya Hiroto makes a promise to himself that he will definitely return his mother's true smile. Amamiya Hiroto peeks out of the bed calling out to the skeletal monkey. It looks like they haven't found him yet. He gives everyone the order to gather because they're starting something. All the skeletons approach him. Amamiya Hiroto suggests starting their meeting. Although he is the only one who speaks, he gets bored talking alone. He says that today at sunrise, the Baron with his knights, the High Priest Gordon and his subordinates will begin to search the forest to find their refuge. The hunters will not report the location of the hideout so that there is nothing to be held responsible for. Baron and Gordon will be looking in the wrong places for a while. The immediate enemy is the hunters. those who know about this place. He tells his guys that they will have to fight. He has about 30 bodies. If the enemy is only 3 hunters, then, in his opinion, this will be enough. His army rejoices. Amamiya Hiroto wonders how strong these guys really are. He reaches out to the skeleton and says he wants to wrestle with his skeletal arms. They hold fist. Amamiya Hiroto easily defeats the skeleton. A silent silence falls. The skeleton trembles in pain. Amamiya Hiroto asks if he is joking. At this time, the hunters quickly walk through the forest. Orbi tells the others to be faster. What if the knights get ahead of them? Those two tell him to calm down. Even if the temple knights are the best, finding this woman's refuge in such a forest is not as easy as it seems. They wanted to say something else, but Orbi interrupts again and asks if they will be careful. He does not want to end up in the belly of a bear or a monkey until he gets rich. One in a hood stops him. He grumbles. What is it this time? He asks him to look at something. He asks, these are the tracks of a large monkey, and right next to this track, they see the tracks of a bear. Orbi looks at them and wonders if it is true. He finds it hard to believe if these were the tracks of a monkey and a bear, then they would have deeper tracks. Orbi feels that he is a bit small. He calls one of the hunters Kari and says that the bear has fewer fingers. Korea then asks what it is. Has he ever seen anything like it in this forest? Orbi says that he didn't see it, and that there's nothing like that in this forest. They've been hunting in this forest for a long time, so they know better. Orbi goes forward and says that he still only sees traces of a few animals. Carrier reluctantly agrees and says that it is possible. Orbi runs away from them again and tells them to hurry, because if the child dies, the money will be lost. They see this house. Orbi shouts that there can be no mistake here. They see a fork, knife, and bones in front of them. Korea says that these things were scattered some time ago. Orbi shouts that there is no way the knights could have gotten ahead of him. He abruptly goes to the shelter. Korea shouts at him what he is doing and tries to stop him. Orbi lifts up and suddenly feels the ground beneath his feet begin to shake. He loses his balance and falls backwards like a bun. He hits his head and is told to get up quickly. He opens his eyes and sees a huge earth golem in front of him. Korea shouts that this is not all. He points his finger forward and tells him to look. They are horrified by what they see. An army of skeletons with burning eyes is advancing on them. They run back with tears in their eyes in fear. Orbi trips over the rope and falls again. Korea yells at him what he's doing. There are people tripping over trash at a time like this. He yells that there's no trash here. He looks at his leg and screams that it's not that. He thought it was a snake, but it's ivy. But the ivy moves on its own. Korea doesn't understand and screams what kind of nonsense this is. A frying pan flies straight at him and hits him on the head, causing him to lose consciousness. The tied-up two of them all scream and ask the golem to stop. But the golem walks right up to them and falls on them. As a result, they wake up tied up near trees. Amamiya Hiroto approaches them on a skeletal monkey and says that everything went well. Amamiya Hiroto sits on a skeletal monkey and looks at them with his multicolored eyes. Orbi thinks that this is incredible. Such a small one and already commands the undead. He can't believe it. As he thought, although these undead were weak, they looked quite frightening from the outside. It was good that they turned out to be such simple-minded fools and not the vigilant golden. Here Amamiya Hiroto begins to say what he would like to hear, but he is still a child and cannot speak clearly. The hunters listen to his baby talk and look on in surprise. Amamiya Hiroto understands that he needs to establish a dialogue first. Amamiya Hiroto conjures another full-sized undead creature that suddenly approaches the hunters, its silhouette made of sand. The sand writes on the ground so that they don't twitch and answer questions. They get scared. Amamiya Hiroto understands that he succeeded. The hunters read the inscription and begin to ask what he wants to know. They will tell everything. Only they ask for mercy. They will not tell anyone about this place, so they ask him to let them go. Amamiya Hiroto reflects that, as Mother said, in this world they also understand Japanese. He remembers what happened before. Darcia told that long ago, in order to resist the armies of the Dark Lord Uranus, the god of heaven and creation, Zerbin summoned 7 heroes from another world. These heroes taught their people martial arts, the skills to create powerful weapons, and they themselves fought bravely at the head of their troops. Finally, after a hard battle, they defeated and sealed the evil. Amamiya Hiroto asks if it was they who gave them the language and writing. Darcia answered him that this was true. After the victory they stayed to live here and taught them the language of their homeland. Obviously, those heroes were from Japan, while he himself is a reincarnated Japanese, so there is nothing surprising. Although Japanese is spoken here, hiragana and katakana seem to be the most widely used. After all, reading hieroglyphs requires a good education, so it remains the privilege of the aristocracy and merchants. Amamiya Hiroto asked the hunters to tell him about Baronet Bastero. Orbi begins to tell that the baronet came to power 10 years ago. He is very ambitious. However, he didn't seem to distinguish himself in any other way. He looks like an ordinary aristocrat in his opinion. Then Amamiya Hiroto asked him to tell about his knights. The blonde says that there are only 5 knights. The rest of the soldiers were simply recruited from local residents. In his opinion, they are quite trained but do not look very strong. Here he asks Amamiya Hiroto if he wants them to take care of them. With him it will be an easy victory. Amamiya Hiroto was even surprised, after which he wrote to them simply to answer questions. He asked him to tell about Golden and the churchmen. Here Korea begins to frantically say that the high priest and his warriors are not always in the city. Orbi adds that they returned here about half a month ago. Orbi says that they put up posters about a witch and her vampire child. Then Amamiya Hiroto looks at him menacingly. He shakes his head in panic from his gaze and the gaze of the skeletal monkey and says that the posters are about him and his highly respected mother. He also adds that this Golden is known as a vampire hunter and the warriors he brought are the elite of the church. Korea says that Golden is very different from ordinary priests in his strength and passion. He has already executed many vampires and their servants. The hunter also adds that, according to rumors, there were vampires among them who were several centuries old, and their strength would not be inferior to that of Class B mercenaries. The blonde tells him again that this is why Amamiya Hiroto should team up with them. Together they can fool them. They can be useful if he keeps them alive. Amamiya Hiroto gives an order to another skeleton with his eyes. The skeleton approaches the blonde and frees him from the tree. The blonde shouts gratitude to him and says that they will be good allies. Let him rely on them. He is the best of all the archers in Ephesus. This blonde guy's name is Johann. Suddenly the skeleton's hand grabs Johann by the head and moves towards him with his skull, making him tremble with fear. Orbi screams his name. Then Johann tells Amamiya Hiroto that he will do anything for him, let him spare him. Here Amamiya Hiroto opens his mouth and sinks his small teeth into the neck of this Johann, sucking the blood out of him. Orbi and Korea sit by the tree and look at their friend in horror, screaming his name while Johann groans in pain. At this time, after enjoying the food, Amamiya Hiroto asks the skeletal monkey to stroke his back. He obeys, and Amamiya Hiroto enjoys the stroking. Amamiya Hiroto sighs in fullness. Johann falls to the ground completely exhausted. He looks like all the flesh has been squeezed out of him. Here Amamiya Hiroto writes to the remaining 2 that he told them to just answer the questions. Amamiya Hiroto looks at them emotionlessly. The 2 of them nod frantically in agreement that they have heard and understood everything. Tears are streaming from their eyes. They are horrified. At this time, Amamiya Hiroto is thinking, remembering the adventurers. Namely, about the Rainbow Sword, their leader, Heinz, who is still a teenager but has already reached Class B. He is a careerist who has already earned 2 titles. He thinks that the other members of the group, although ES class, are also strong and talented. If you also take into account Golden, now he can't cope with them in any way. He understands this. Then those 2 start to panic. They ask what's going on. Does he really not want to ask anything else? Then the second one asks, maybe then he will let them go after all. The departing Amamiya Hiroto turns to them and looks with his cold eyes. After a while, he returns to them with his army of undead. Orbi is shaking and crying. He begs him to spare them and let them go. He was about to start saying something, but the ivy presses him tighter to the tree. Here Amamiya Hiroto again begins to write something on the sand. He addresses them. They do not understand and wait for what he wants to write. Amamiya Hiroto asks them if they have brides, maybe wives or small children. After they killed his mother, who had just given birth to a child, what did they want to tell him? Amamiya Hiroto tells him that their fate has already been decided. They all cry. Amamiya Hiroto tells them that they will become food. After these words, cries of suffering are heard. 2 months later, someone hits the bald man right on the head with his weapon, so he simply dies. The huge man with the gray beard who leads the priests sighs and wonders why they only come across goblins. After each blow he strikes, blood splatters everywhere. They address him as His Eminence. They tell him that maybe this dhampir was taken by his father long ago or died under the rubble in that cave. He asks why they are still searching, because the hunter who gave them the dhampir and his team. Here his high priesthood interrupts him. He said that they went hunting and still have not returned. The servant understands and accepts that this is so. He tells how 3 local hunters disappeared without a trace and their bodies were never found. He asks the servant if he finds this strange. The servant asks if he really thinks this is the revenge of a dhampir. But he is only a newborn baby. His high priesthood states that it is not impossible at all. There is a known case where a 3-year-old dhampir destroyed a team of D-class mercenaries. If we let him go now, it could turn into big problems in the future. The servant again came to his high priest with the objection that they alone could not search this forest. Even Baronet Bastereau had already called off his men. The priest even shouts that they have not let anyone into this forest for 2 months. The residents of Efwasia, who have lost their resources, are starting to grumble. His high priesthood shouts at him that he knows, but now, here he is interrupted by another, calling him Mr. Golden. The priest shouts to him that there are many places where he is needed more. Golden is surprised by his words. The priest explains that vampires are still lurking in the darkness and continue to attack people. How much more time can you waste in this forest without finding a single clue? Here, Golden interrupts him and asks him to stop. He abruptly turns away from the priests and says that the day after tomorrow they are leaving Ephesus. Golden lifts his head up, looks at the sun and wonders where this damn dhampir went. Amamiya Hiroto is standing outside, all shaggy and dirty. He spreads his arms out to the sides and says that he loves the sun. Next to him is the skeleton of some kind of bird. He sighs and thinks, it's been a long time. He didn't think that this old man would last here for 2 months. The story continues, which happened 2 months ago. Darcia asks in surprise, wouldn't it be better to get out of this forest as soon as possible? Amamiya Hiroto, while playing games with skeletons, tells her that no, because it might be difficult after all. She warned that people would recognize him as a dhampir at first sight, so they shouldn't approach their settlements. Darcia explained that they were in the central part of the Bangaya continent, in Manga, which is the border territory of the Amido Empire. The Old Church is heavily involved in this region, so vampires and their ilk are considered unnatural and dangerous creatures. Mercenary guilds are constantly opening contracts for them. Amamiya Hiroto explains that once they leave this house, they will have no safe shelter, won't even be able to sleep peacefully, and will quickly lose their breath. Darcia, after thinking about it, replies that this is indeed true, but will they be able to hide until the hunters give up? Amamiya Hiroto replies that he can't guarantee it 100%, but he has an idea on how to hide so they won't be found. He believes that first you need to deepen the cave by creating earth golems, then block the entrance with them, scatter pieces of furniture and utensils in front of the house, and disguise the cave as if it had collapsed. Suddenly, the 3 hunters reach out to him with an offer to be friends. They are charmed by Amamiya Hiroto, who is shocked by such behavior. They circle around him. Amamiya Hiroto understands that these are the ghosts of the hunters he killed. Because of his ability to control death, the ghosts like him, even if he himself does not want it. Johann tells him to order them around, and the 2 tell him that they are his most loyal servants. They stretch their lips to him, kiss him and cherish him like a little child. But Amamiya Hiroto is completely beside himself. He screams and swears that it's disgusting, he doesn't know where to put them. He uses his magic so that one of the hunters disappears. In fact, he transferred their souls into the bodies of golems. Amamiya Hiroto says contentedly that this is how it should be, and that he will find work for them so that the deepened cave does not collapse. Columns are needed that will support the ceiling. He places one in a cave with his arms raised, holding up the ceiling. Amamiya Hiroto orders him to stand there forever. Amamiya Hiroto looks around and says that this is great, and that now they can deepen the cave even further and make an inconspicuous air pocket, and then he will return to camouflaging the entrance. A few days later, several golems walk in front of Amamiya Hiroto, led by a skeleton. Amamiya Hiroto says that he has already deepened the cave by about 50 meters. Amamiya Hiroto says that's it. They can wrap up these public works. They definitely won't be found now. Since he can see in the dark, there's no need for lighting, there's enough water and food, so there shouldn't be any problems. He thought then, although after half a month the supplies were almost finished. Amamiya Hiroto was already eating worms out of hunger, and then he felt sick from them. Suddenly water comes out of the walls. He is happy about it at first, but then he realizes that they are being flooded, so it all needs to be blocked off. Several times he already thought he was going to die, but he somehow survived it all and got out again. He stands in the sun with tears in his eyes and says that he will never again live a life in which the happiest event is catching a mole. He carefully steps on the ground and thinks that, although his pursuers have gone away, he still needs a lot of sleep. He is still too small to leave here and go on a journey, and he walks with difficulty. He is not fit for long journeys. He leans slightly to the side as he walks, until he finishes his preparations. He thinks it's best to continue hiding here. Amamiya Hiroto looks around, looks at the sky, and thinks about High Priest Golden, the Rainbow Sword mercenaries. He mentally asks them how they are doing, even if they don't even think about dying until he finishes them off himself. The sun is shining brightly. He is sitting on a hollow tree. The other skeletons are settled in front of him. The dog is lying down. The others are sitting. Amamiya Hiroto announces that they are beginning their special training. The skeletons listen to him very attentively. Whatever he decides to do, he needs to prepare for battle. He is cursed and cannot become stronger on his own, so he decides it is worth trying to strengthen his servants. He says that this is good, and that for starters, the skeletons wait in anticipation to hear what he will say. Amamiya Hiroto raises his hand and points at the skeleton, then hesitates, wondering how to train bones at all. He thinks about running, but they have no heart or lungs, and there's no point in pumping up endurance. He thinks about strength training, but he immediately realizes that skeletons don't have muscles either. He thinks about martial arts, but that's also doubtful. Finally, it comes to the possession of weapons. The skeleton holds a bow without an arrow. After examining the weapon for a long time, the skeleton swings and hits another skeleton. Amamiya Hiroto looks at all this tiredly. Amamiya Hiroto walks up to the skeleton and pushes it with his head, causing the bone to crunch and immediately fall right in front of him. Amamiya Hiroto sighs heavily, thinking that this is all hopeless. He wonders how to even strengthen these things. He remembers his characteristics and thinks about experience points and understands that this is the best. Warriors during battles and training, farmers at work, blacksmiths creating new weapons, they all earn experience points. He wonders how the undead do it. However, a hungry goblin immediately appears in front of them. Amamiya Hiroto says that this is a goblin, the weakest monster in fantasy. He is surprised this is what it looks like in reality, it turns out. Amamiya Hiroto finishes his sentence by saying that he is not impressed, then points his finger at him and orders the skeletons to take him. The skeletons pounce on the goblin and smash their heads together. Since the undead are monsters too, they can certainly earn experience points by killing people, but if they do that, they will be targeted by the mercenary guilds and will have to flee. Amamiya Hiroto thinks about going back to that miserable underground life again and comes to the conclusion that it won't happen. The skeletons grab the goblin. Amamiya Hiroto says that's great and then gives them the order to finish him off, which the skeletons do. Amamiya Hiroto sees that the monkey bones, human bones, wolf bones, bear bones, and bird bones have reached the second level. They are all happy. Amamiya Hiroto is also happy and says that it means the undead can accumulate by killing the living. Then he receives a notification that he has also reached level 3. Amamiya Hiroto is surprised that his level has also increased. He doesn't understand because the curse remains. He wonders if he got some of the points from his undead, since when he killed animals for food and when he killed those hunters, he didn't gain any experience. According to the curse, he can't earn experience for himself, but it turns out that his servants can. He wonders if there's such a simple loophole in the divine curse. Amamiya Hiroto thinks that it's so simple that it's suspicious. He really suspects that it might be some kind of trap. True, the god who cursed him was stupid and irresponsible. But after thinking about it, Amamiya Hiroto comes to the conclusion that there is no point in it. He thinks that maybe the curse on learning skills can be dealt with somehow. Then a skeleton calls him from behind. Amamiya Hiroto turns around and asks the skeletal monkey what is it, and he asks what they should do with it. Amamiya Hiroto replies that, of course, it would be possible to make him undead and add him to his army, but he feels it is better to focus on quality rather than quantity. He then suggests simply burying the goblin's corpse. They bury the body. Amamiya Hiroto looks on contentedly. Amamiya Hiroto tells his army that all their bones are intact and in place, so he will train the 5 of them especially. He tells them that he is counting on them, and they cheer happily. At night, the skeletons sit by the fire with Darcia. Amamiya Hiroto approaches them. Darcia congratulates him on his first birthday. Everyone sings songs, congratulates the bird skeleton, puts some kind of talisman on his neck. Darcia claps joyfully, and the others do the same. Amamiya Hiroto thanks his mother and everyone else, and then starts eating. His mother apologizes to him and says that if she were alive, she would cook something delicious. Amamiya Hiroto turns to her and says with a serious face that she has nothing to apologize for because he is already happy. Suddenly, he remembers his past life on Earth when a man tells him that today is his birthday. He responds emotionlessly that it is. Then the man was outraged by his gaze and called him greedy, although the man himself looks at Amamiya Hiroto with disdain. Suddenly, he starts pointing his finger at him and shouting that in the future he will have to live alone if he gets used to all sorts of holidays in childhood. He will become a weak and spoiled adult. The man asks him if he understands this because he wishes him well, and he agrees with him again without emotion. Amamiya Hiroto Darcy says that he is used to not having to count on cakes and gifts or even congratulations, so this is the first birthday he is truly celebrating. Darcia is already in tears. Amamiya Hiroto says that it's not just a birthday. They celebrate a lot of good things today, like him finally being able to talk. Before this, he couldn't pronounce spells out loud, and he had to spend extra strength on them. Now there is no need for this. However, since he mastered the skill Reverse spell, he can cast nonverbal spells with a normal amount of mana. Before, he had to spend a huge amount of mana just to make them work at all, and the effect was still half as strong as usual. Darcia asks in surprise if this is true, then adds that it's great. She's never even heard of such a skill. Amamiya Hiroto continues eating and says that he probably mastered it because he had to use nonverbal magic for so long. In addition, his bone companions had risen to level 100 and their class in the monster rankings had improved. Previously, they were all considered to be just animated bones, but now they are bony animals and skeletons. Darcia agrees and says that now they can leave this forest. Amamiya Hiroto says that it is still too early. He says that of course they are already strong enough to take revenge on the people of Ephrasia. But that is not the problem. They want to find a city where he, a dhampir, can live in safety, and that will probably be a long journey. Sure, his bone servants have gotten stronger, but to the mercenaries they are still one hit away. Darcia sadly lowers his head. Amamiya Hiroto says that starting tomorrow he plans to hunt the local bandits. Darcia claps and happily says that this is right. Then she suddenly realizes what he said and asks in horror what he means by hunting. Amamiya Hiroto says that recently the hedgehog has stopped receiving experience points from its usual victims. Amamiya Hiroto thinks out loud that bandits will probably give more experience than forest animals and monsters, and they will also be able to take their loot. He clarifies that in this world, killing a criminal and taking his things is not considered a crime. Darcia says that it could be dangerous. This is a job for D-class mercenaries. Amamiya Hiroto tells her not to worry, it will be a surprise attack. He finishes eating the meat and holds the bone in his hand. He smugly says that he also has a few ideas about where they are hiding. In another area, in a wooden house, the bandits are enjoying themselves. One of the leaders shouts that they are leaving tomorrow, so they should get rid of all the extra food and drink. The bandits rejoice and call the man the leader. One of them, wearing a headscarf, gets drunk and asks the other why they decided to move so abruptly. Another one answers him that recently other gangs in the area have disappeared one after another, and they say that the local lord has hired a punitive detachment to maintain order in these lands. The first one starts laughing heartily at another situation, and the other one gets indignant, asking him to at least listen to the end. That night, Amamiya Hiroto stands on the edge of a cliff, hands folded in front of him, asking a certain Sam if these are the bandits who killed him. The man replies that this is true and that it is absolutely them. Sam asks Amamiya Hiroto to avenge him and his daughters. Sam begins to cry and asks them to pay him back to these bandits for the pain that his burned children experienced. Amamiya Hiroto looks at him and then agrees, saying that he helped him find their hideout and that he can rely on him for the rest. He closes his eyes and asks for them to be given what they deserve. Over the past month, they have dealt with many bandit gangs. These will be the final chord. Their leader is a former soldier. His henchmen are also well trained, and they carry weapons not just for intimidation. Like other weaklings, they can and will fight. He steps forward with his army and says that they have been preparing for this day, so he decides to get down to business. The robbers finish their work. One of them says that they got a lot of loot today. The second agrees with him. The first one says again that everyone is leaving here tomorrow, but they were still put on guard duty. There is nothing in the area except wild animals or wandering goblins. One of them thinks that guarding here is a waste of time. The second one shouts that it is too boring to just sit here and do nothing. He asks why don't they go back to the party and drink. He doesn't finish the sentence because an arrow hits him right in the throat. His comrade looks at him in horror, trembles in shock, and then falls down from his post. At this time, from afar, Amamiya Hiroto praises the skeleton, saying that it is a good job. The bandits panic and shout that they are under attack, so let everyone grab their gear. From the guard post, a bandit shouts that they are all coming, that they are all rushing straight at them in great panic. Skeletons and bones are running towards them. They pass through the fences and simply trample the robbers. They all scream in horror. One shouts that they are undead, that they are monsters. The second repeats after him, saying that they were attacked by monsters. The leader shouts to everyone to remain calm. With such an enemy, crushing them with axes and maces will be more effective than using swords. He orders the bandits to hurry up and change their weapons. Everyone obeys. One happily and proudly says that this is as expected from a boss. The other says that this is quite reasonable since he was an experienced soldier who faced the same creatures like skeletons or zombies. The leader shouts that there are only a few level 1 and 2 monsters there. He thinks that they are no match for them. So let them go forward and crush them all. One with an axe goes towards the skeleton, shouting that he will smash it into little pieces, calling him a bad bonehead. However, the skeleton turns towards him, causing him to freeze in horror, and the skeleton grabs him with its hands. The skeleton lifts the robber towards itself and squeezes him with such force that he easily dies. The skeletons begin their attack, scaring the bandits. The monsters easily hit and smash their heads with one hand. One skeleton runs towards the robber with a huge sword. He repels it with a blow from his axe and is horrified by what kind of monstrous force it is. In the end, the skeleton defeats the robber. His axe flies far away. All the skeletons remove all the robbers from their path. The living tell their boss that these creatures are different from the normal second-tier monsters. The second one screams that they can no longer hold them back, so they ask their boss for help. The leader starts to get angry, thinking that he only has a bunch of useless bandits. So he has to admit that he doesn't stand a chance against these guys. Even if he can defeat one, the rest will still rush him. Given their situation, perhaps he would simply let them deal with his subordinates while he found a way out. The leader shouts at the bandits not to waver, to stand firm and crush them all. The leader turns away from them and calmly walks away from the battlefield to the cart. He thinks that if he hurries, he will have time to reach the merchant's cart and will be able to escape. That Amamiya Hiroto gives the command to the undead to rise. Suddenly, a huge wall rises right in front of the leader's face. The leader is shocked and doesn't understand what's happening. He turns around and sees Amamiya Hiroto. He can't believe that this child can control this undead alone. The leader begins to see 2 female silhouettes behind Amamiya Hiroto. These girls see him and get scared because they remember the past, how they tied up the father and committed a crime against the girls. One of them then asked the boss if he thought they had gone a little overboard. He offers to sell the 2. The leader then leaves, telling him to do whatever he wants because he's not going to try to sell them right now. To them, they're just toys to play with, so he'll leave the cleaning to them. Then one robber poured a drink on the unconscious girls and said that he hoped that they could be good sisters after death. Then they came out of the house and set it on fire along with the sisters inside, so the souls of these sisters are black as night. Amamiya Hiroto sees the sisters' reaction to the leader and orders the bone bear. But then the leader begins to ask him to wait, to slow down a little, that he understands everything, and that he gives up. He shouts that he surrenders and that he is no match for Amamiya Hiroto. He says that he doesn't have any other people as allies. His undead are strong, of course, but it would be nice to have a human under his command. He continues that he can be of great help to him, so how about cooperation? He asks if he will accept this deal. Amamiya Hiroto says that it is true that he wanted to become an ally to humanity. However, he does not believe that a person like the leader who abandoned his comrades would be of any use to him. He orders the bone bear to finish him off quickly, but it keeps asking him to wait and screaming that it doesn't want to die. Amamiya Hiroto heartlessly asks why he doesn't go and tell those he killed. The monster kills the leader. Amamiya Hiroto leaves and reflects that it's stressful in a way. He's still not used to talking to people. He returns to the battlefield and sees that one skeleton is unable to fight the people. One bandit shouts that they should run, but accidentally kicks the skeleton of the bird. The bone vulture rolls down like a bun and ends up at the feet of Amamiya Hiroto, who picks him up. Amamiya Hiroto says that no matter how hard he tried, he never developed any fighting ability, and since he has no feathers, he can't fly like a bird. He thinks the vulture is pretty miserable. The bone vulture sadly bows his head. Amamiya Hiroto supports him and says that everything is fine and that he still has a chance. Amamiya Hiroto explains that if he gets enough experience points and raises his rank, he might be able to fly after all. The bird happily moves on. Amamiya Hiroto thinks that all the main things have already been done. He suggests that the bird go see if there are any survivors left. Amamiya Hiroto uses the life detection skill and hears the echo of human life under this small canopy. The souls say that there were no more than 21 bandits here, and he also sensed 21 bodies around this area. Amamiya Hiroto asks the bandits if anyone has come in recently this year. One replies that no, it's not one of them. It's a merchant who was caught a few days ago. He heard that he is a member of a very wealthy family that lives in the territory of Viscount Maggio. The ghosts say that the ransom for him is incredibly high, so they let him live. Amamiya Hiroto says that now it is unpleasant. Sounds are heard in the dark tunnel. The boy in the cap thinks, "Is someone really coming here? But why can't he see the light of the candle?" The boy frantically asks who is there. Amamiya Hiroto apologizes and says that it is so dark that he can't see anything. He uses the spiritual flame for light. The boy gets scared behind bars and screams that he is a ghost. Amamiya Hiroto tells him that he is not, and that he is still alive. Amamiya Hiroto says that the bandits who kidnapped him were killed, and he will now release him. Amamiya Hiroto asks this guy not to tell anyone that he ever met him. Amamiya Hiroto opens the dungeon door and leaves, and the guy follows him, calling him. Amamiya Hiroto knows it would be safer to just kill the man and hide the evidence. But the guy is just an innocent victim. To kill him would be to commit a crime, and if he did so, he would be reduced to the level of those bandits and robbers who had tormented him in the past. Besides, someday Amamiya and his fake heroic comrades will also be reborn in this world. He will not give them the opportunity to kill him in the name of justice. The guy follows him and can't believe that the dhampir kid saved him. He was sure that he was going to die. But in contrast to his appearance, he seems like a good kid. Overall, he's glad that he made it out alive. They go outside as soon as the guy looks up. He's horrified by the sight that appears before him. He sees numerous corpses, and around them skeletons who finish them off with weapons and scream. Amamiya Hiroto touches the boy's leg, which frightens him. Amamiya Hiroto tells him that he forgot to tell him something. Amamiya Hiroto looks up and says that if he says anything about its existence, those guys will come for him, so it's best for him to keep quiet about what he saw here. The sun is shining brightly. Darcia and Amamiya Hiroto are sitting in the house. The boy says that as expected from the largest bandit group in the area, they have a lot of good items. Judging from the battle that took place, it's not their poor fighting skills that they should blame themselves for, but their lack of proper patrolling. Darcia turns to him and asks if he doesn't want to see that merchant off. Amamiya Hiroto also remembers him. The merchant slowly mounts his horse and looks around. Amamiya Hiroto thinks that the bones can do it themselves. Indeed, all the skeletons say goodbye to the merchant and see him off, making the guy nervous. Amamiya Hiroto tells his mother that he already gave him back all his things and he even gave him the horse, which is enough for him. Amamiya Hiroto concludes that he is just a stranger. Darcia, with a sad face, says that it is great. She thinks he is right. Amamiya Hiroto takes out some sausages and says that those bandits definitely knew how to eat properly. Maybe he should make this and treat himself. Darcia yells that there is no way she will let that happen because he is still a 1-year-old child and it is dangerous. Amamiya Hiroto tells his mother that he doesn't think dried meat and stale bread are good food for a 1-year-old's belly. But since his jaw is several times stronger than a normal 1-year-old's, he can still eat it, or rather, he has done more dangerous things than cooking it before. Darcia yells that she said no, so she said no. She asks what if he gets burned. He says he uses water and heat drop to cool him down. Darcia keeps yelling at Amamiya Hiroto, scolding him, and Amamiya Hiroto is even surprised. Darcia bends him over and scolds him that no matter how much magic he can use, he is still a 1-year-old child, so he should do what his mother tells him. He even apologizes to her. Later, they stand by the carriage. Amamiya Hiroto offers to load their loot into the carriage and head back. Darcia tells him that he gave him the horse. They only have this wagon left. Amamiya Hiroto replies that it is not a problem. He already thought about it. Amamiya Hiroto ponders who he should choose. Then Sam comes and asks to give it to him. Amamiya Hiroto asks him if he wants to do it. Sam answers affirmatively. Sam says that in his life he has had experience as a carriage driver and horse trainer for nobles. When it comes to carriages, he is sure that no one can compete with him in experience and knowledge. Amamiya Hiroto replies that he understands. He is glad to hear it. Considering that he is still unable to maintain a form that resembles his life appearance without his help, his will is extremely strong. Having him as their ally may be the biggest benefit they have gained from everything that has happened to them. Sam bows to him and says that he helped them get revenge. The daughters behind him also bow. Sam says that they will try their best to repay this debt. Amamiya Hiroto says that he understands this and that he relies on him. Sam happily obeys and enters the carriage. The carriage itself starts moving on its own because Amamiya Hiroto ordered it to rebel. Amamiya Hiroto tells Sam's damn carriage to go already. Darcia screams that it's amazing. Amamiya Hiroto asks the carriage how it feels. It says it's not bad. There are no problems yet. He can control the carriage like his own body. In other words, the carriage is now Sam. The carriage even spins and boasts, asking to see that it can even spin like that. Darcia says it's quite comfortable. The carriage then tells them to take their seats. Amamiya Hiroto agrees and gets into the carriage, followed by everyone else, after which they set off on their journey. Someone pours a drink into a glass and congratulates another on his promotion to Baron. The man tells Fufu not to rush into it. It hasn't been confirmed yet anyway. Fufu says he's just being modest. Fufu says that the only thing left is the summons from the imperial capital and the title is already in his hands, thanks to the execution of that witch. The subjugation of the dhampir has been confirmed. The Baron replies that it is after the execution of that stupid woman. Everything is going like clockwork. This year, the drink has exceeded all expectations, and he heard that the problems with bandits and social order are decreasing. Even the problems with diseases have been solved. It seems that luck is on their side. Fufu stands and tells him that this is definitely true. Amamiya Hiroto hears this entire conversation and the next second orders someone to destroy him. Suddenly, the wall crumbles, and the knights don't understand what's going on. Bricks fall from above right on the knight. These bricks don't just fall. They form a huge silhouette of a monster that roars and stomps loudly. The knights do not understand what it was and what happened. They immediately call the captain and shout that everything is very bad. The knight tells the captain in a panic that the outer walls have been turned into a huge golem, and he shouts that he can see it anyway. Let him not stand there like a statue and hurry to do something. The knights tell him that this thing is not going to attack the city, because the golem has started to leave here. The knight says with resignation that even if they try to do something. The captain shouts at him not to hesitate. Does he hear that this is the outer wall of the city? He indignantly asks his subordinate how he thinks he can protect someone from enemies without an outer wall, or whether he will simply allow bandits and monsters to attack them. He reports that, no way. The knight asks delicately, even if they want to, how can this be stopped at all? The captain wants to yell at first, but then changes his mind, because the knight is right. He steps away and tells the knight to just go after the golem. The two of them run after the monster, who is heading into the city. Here Fufu approaches the Baron and in a panic asks for forgiveness. He asks what is going on. What is all the fuss about? Fufu starts to say that it is urgent, and that the city was. Here he does not finish, because the dishes and candles on the table begin to shake and fall, which shocks the Baron. The Baron immediately hides behind the table and asks in a trembling voice what it was. Was it really an earthquake? Fufu replies that it is not so and is frightened by his guess that even here, he doesn't finish speaking and shouts to the Baron that he needs to leave here first and asks him to leave faster, which the Baron does. The Baron goes out into the street and runs, but he stops abruptly when he feels that his palace is already crumbling into pieces and collapsing. He turns around to see that his house has now turned into a huge golem looming over him. The golem raises its foot to step on him, but the Baron manages to dodge the blow with a scream in panic. He falls down abruptly in fear and trembles, clutching his head. The golem passes him by without harming him. Fufu approaches Baron Wester, who angrily asks what is going on here. Where have all the knights and adventurers from the guild gone? He tries to answer that even the guild building was turned into a giant golem, so the situation is very confusing. Fufu says that in addition, his drinks and the cellar where his favorite drink was stored also turned into golems, even the export drinks. So everything is lost. Wester is horrified and does not believe what his butler said and falls to his knees in despair, remembering his guild. At this time, Amamiya Hiroto is standing on the roof of one of the houses and says that everything seems to be going well. Every night, he would sneak into the city and create golems, waiting for this to happen. He spent a lot of time creating these golems. Once the preparations are complete, everything becomes much easier. It is a pleasure to see how well the plans are carried out. Amamiya Hiroto turns to his mother and proudly says that the people who laughed at her are running away in fear and despair. Darcia thanks him for everything he has done for her. She asks him. He worked very hard for this suitable revenge. Amamiya Hiroto didn't understand why it was suitable. He muses that it's true. If it weren't for Hayes and Gordon, he would have just killed everyone in this town. They deserve it for everything they did to Mom, but he doesn't understand why he leaves them alive. Amamiya Hiroto says he doesn't know how long it will take for it to be revived, so the people living here will have to recover as well. Darcia agrees with him, but this time he gives them another chance. She says she is proud of him. She reaches out to him. At first she hesitates, but then she places her palm on his head and begins to stroke it. Amamiya Hiroto feels this and remembers the times when he was just a baby and enjoyed being praised by Darcia. A fitting revenge. Yes, as Darcia said, however, for those bad people who killed his mother, it would not end so easily. As for them, he would take their lives with his own hands. He tells the skeletal bird to come with them. The bird finally spreads its wings, picks him up and flies to the cart with his other undead. One day, two people walk across an empty field. There is drought everywhere. The sun is shining brightly. The place looks more like a desert. Darcia breathes heavily and sighs. Suddenly she begins to stagger. The man next to him becomes restless. He catches her before she falls and asks if she's okay, to which Darcia only asks for forgiveness from him, a man named Valen. He tells her with a smile that everything is fine. He suggests that she rest a little. In such heat, even a healthy man has a hard time moving, not to mention her condition. They sit down under some natural creature in the shade. Darcia greedily gulps water from a bottle. Valen looks at her with concern. He looks away from her and says that it is rather he who should apologize. He should have taken care of everything earlier. He shouts that he promises her even at the cost of his own life, but he will definitely protect her and the baby. Darcia suddenly leans her head on his shoulder and cuddles. She thanks him and hopes that everything will be fine between them. She says that they will find a quiet place where the three of them can live out the rest of their lives in peace, and he replies that they can. Valen starts to tell her something. She listens attentively. He asks her what they will name the baby. Back to the present day, the cart is accompanied by terrifying skeletal monsters with glowing eyes. Darcia tells Amamiya Hiroto that there are 4 generations of vampires in their world. The first, born from the union of the goddess Vida and the hero Zakhart, are the true ones, but all of them have long been exterminated and forgotten. Next are the direct heirs of the true purebloods. The children of the purebloods are called noble, and finally the bitten ones. The servants of the noble and purebloods are inferior. The higher the vampire is in this hierarchy, the stronger he is. They all have in common a fear of sunlight, magical abilities, and a thirst for blood. Amamiya Hiroto says that means his father was a lowly one and served them. Darcia replies that his father was born a human and was, as he himself admitted, a thief from the slums before he was bitten. Amamiya Hiroto wonders if he's a thief from the slums. He expected something more interesting, remembering how Darcia told him when he was a baby that it was incredible, as expected from his father's child. Darcia says that the main thing is not who he was, but what he was. He had immunity to sunlight, which made him different from the others. Amamiya Hiroto asks if this means that he inherited his father's genes and therefore is not afraid of light. She replies that this is quite possible. Darcia says that his father achieved a lot in the service of a pureblood vampire. He collected information for him and was something of a right hand. She says with warmth that it was then that he met her. O was very surprised how he approached and spoke. He was such a handsome man, and he immediately fell in love. Amamiya Hiroto thinks that she somehow fell for a strange man too easily. She says with a smile that a few months later a new life appeared in her mother's belly. Little Vandal. This did not please the father's master, who condemned interracial relations, which, according to him, spoiled the purity of blood. So he decided to execute them. But they escaped. It was not difficult because they moved during the day while the rest of the vampires hid with the first rays of the sun. However, over time, it became increasingly difficult for her to move, and Valen began to get tired of constantly protecting her. Darcia says that she still misses that time. Then it all didn't seem so sad, on the contrary. They were happy. She remembers again when he asked about the baby's name. She was surprised and asked if it was too early for a name. She says that they don't even know if it's a boy or a girl. He says that he still wants to shout this name when he is born. He thinks better of it, and thinks that maybe it will be her name after all. He suggests that she just come up with two names, and asks how about trying to combine their names for this matter. She doubtfully agrees and asks again if he is talking about half of his and half of her name. He is glad that he also thought about it. He is happy, takes her hands and shouts that they even think alike. Darcia supports him and says that this is really so. Darcia says that then let the girl be Welsie. He says that it sounds great and he agrees to this name. Alvin thinks about the boy's name and wonders if it's the first two letters and the last letters of his name plus the first three of hers. Later, they are walking through the city. It starts to rain. Alvin says worriedly that they need to find some shelter. Suddenly, someone appears in front of him. There were three of them, all of them wearing hooded cloaks. Suddenly, one of them in front pulls out a sword and aims at them. Alvin yells at Darcia to run. She tells him that she won't leave without her. He yells that they can't escape together. Valen says that they need to buy time. He suggests that she saves herself while he tries to delay them. Darcia still resists, that there are three of them and only one of him. Valen is already angry and panicked, screaming and begging her to run quickly. Darcia suddenly falls silent, strokes her stomach and, with eyes full of tears, runs away from him in bitterness. Valen smiles and thinks to himself that everything will be fine. At least she and the baby will live. The three attack him. Valen boldly goes to meet them. He mentally asks Darcia to take care of their child. Amamiya Hiroto listens to this story and lowers his head. Darcia tells him that he died protecting them and she escaped and settled in this forest. She continues her story. Wendell is born and screaming, crying. Darcia kisses the baby with tears and says that she is so happy and that she and Valen are now parents, and the baby is a boy, a healthy and rosy baby. She remembers him talking about wanting to shout his name when he was born, and if it was a boy, then the first two letters and the last letters of his name. Darcia smiles and says that he was born Vandal. She asks him if he likes the story behind his name. Amamiya Hiroto replies that he likes it and that it is a wonderful name. Darcia smiles and says that she is so happy. I am sure his father would be happy too. Darcia remembers and asks what they were talking about. Amamiya Hiroto replies that it seems like vampires. Amamiya Hiroto noticed that she was forgetting herself more and more often and her memory was gradually deteriorating. He could no longer hear her words. Unlike Sam, who died with a sense of unfulfilled duty, Mom seemed ready to leave for another world, and now her consciousness is slowly crumbling. He looks at his palm and thinks that his magic is keeping her sane, but he needs to take care of her new body quickly. Suddenly he hears a long cry. Sam asks the master for forgiveness. Amamiya Hiroto asks if it is the goblins again. He replies that he seems to have run over one of them. Amamiya Hiroto says that he didn't get any experience from his death again, so they need to find a new way to level up. Darcia tells him that she thinks he's strong enough as is. Usually it takes a whole party to kill a goblin. Amamiya Hiroto agrees with her, but says that their goals force them to constantly evolve, and if so, they need to find a way to do so. A few days later, Amamiya Hiroto says that he could spend a few nights in the Dark Elf settlement. Darcia says that it is unlikely that they will let him near him, since he has no proof that he is an elf's child. Amamiya Hiroto agrees and says that his skin color will not inspire confidence in them. He decides to think of another place to spend the night. Amamiya Hiroto says that if the people who are pursuing the dhampirs are Ald's followers, wouldn't it be better for him to go to a place where they are not respected? Darcia happily says that it's not a bad idea. Then she would suggest heading towards the Orbom Kingdom. The enemy of their enemy is their friends. Maybe the attitude towards dhampirs is different there. Amamiya Hiroto asks Darcia if she is sure. She replies that she has never been there herself, so let him decide for himself. She only heard that monsters and giants rule that country. Maybe there will be no prejudice against him. Amamiya Hiroto thinks that there are no guarantees, of course, but it is no longer safe to stay here. He should at least try. He agrees and suggests that they go there then. The carriage starts moving and says that they are leaving tomorrow morning and will make a short stop for now. Amamiya Hiroto asks the carriage to wake him up at dawn, and he obeys. Unexpectedly, Sam meets a ghost on the way and asks him who he is. Amamiya Hiroto tells Sam that everything is fine. It is a wandering soul, probably attracted by his enormous destructive power. The ghost tells him, calling him baby, which sounds a bit presumptuous. But he's wrong. He's not a wanderer. He says that he is a famous spy and informant, and he is willing to share some interesting data. Amamiya Hiroto asks without emotion what kind of interesting data it is. He replies that he was spying for the good of the Empire but was killed while returning from his mission and did not have time to report on its results. The spy can't stand it anymore and asks Amamiya Hiroto to ask him. Because it's a secret of national importance, he can share. He begs to ask him. Otherwise, he will never rest in peace. Amamiya Hiroto then asks him to tell. The spy happily leaves after a while, thanks Amamiya Hiroto and wishes him a good day, waving his hand after him. His soul is released and flies into the sky. Then Darcia comes out and curses how many times she told him not to talk to strangers. Amamiya Hiroto says that there is a problem. A spy has reported an approaching war between the Empire and the Kingdom. Darcia gets scared and assumes that at the borders already. Amamiya Hiroto confirms her thought that this is so, and that for everyone there are just strange strangers. In the current situation, the soldiers will not figure out what is what, but most likely will simply attack them. Amamiya Hiroto says that there is no point in heading east anymore. He asks Sam to change course to the south. He points to the map and says that since they can't cross the eastern border, they'll try to go into the wildlands and from there to Orbom. Sam hears about the wildlands and warns that it could be quite dangerous. He then explains why. The landscape and its inhabitants there are too capricious. Even all sorts of adventurers avoid this territory like the plague. There are rumors that it was in this place that the legendary Zakhart died. Amamiya Hiroto says that it's still better than constantly running from Imperial soldiers. Sam replies that he's probably right, so he listens and obeys. Thus, they turn towards a deadly wasteland called the Cursed Nest. The carriage suddenly stops. Amamiya Hiroto asks why they stopped again. Darcia assumes that something happened. Amamiya Hiroto comes out and asks Sam what's going on again. Sam asks the master to look in a certain direction. Right in front of them is a wall. Amamiya Hiroto says it looks like a pile of useless bricks. Sam tells him that it is a dungeon. He does not understand and asks again. Sam explains that this is usually the name for the lair of monsters, where they live away from the world and its magic. Most monsters live in the wastelands, but sometimes they settle in human territories. Amamiya Hiroto asks if this means they are already close to the wasteland. Darcia replies that it is not necessary, otherwise there would be a lot of different monsters here. This is just their small stronghold outside the main nest. They explain to him that the mobs in the dungeons are relatively weak. Amamiya Hiroto asks if it is true that there are many not very strong monsters inside. He says that judging by how overgrown it is, no human has stepped foot here, which means it is still inhabited. Darcia yells at him to stop it because she knows what he is getting at. It is a dangerous place and she would not advise him to go there. Amamiya Hiroto says that he understands, but this is a great opportunity to raise their levels. If they defeat weaker enemies now and become stronger, then there will be less dangers waiting for them on their subsequent journey. Darcia thinks about it and says that it seems true. Then Sam tells her that they will have to agree with their master. He explains that he has already decided everything for himself. They can only make sure that his adventure is as safe as possible. Darcia says she understands this and relies on Sam. She turns to Amamiya Hiroto and tells her to listen to Sam as she can hardly help him. He tells her not to tell him as their squad has never failed them before. She turns to the skeletons and asks them to take care of Amamiya Hiroto, while Amamiya Hiroto gives the order to move forward. The cart goes straight into the dungeon. They are attacked by goblins. The cart simply runs over them without understanding. Sam says that such a crowd of goblins is still quite a lot for the first room of the dungeon. To be honest, he did not expect such resistance. Amamiya Hiroto impartially says that they can handle it. Darcia awkwardly asks why he got involved in this. 14 goblins at just one entrance. The place had probably been untouched for years and had been quietly growing until they arrived. The carriage is indignant. What kind of dungeon is this which is quietly expanding? They intend to make a stir here. Darcia says that in this world you can find forgotten but inhabited dungeons. Amamiya Hiroto says that he can understand if no one pays attention to them due to the weakness of the monsters inside. He says that sometimes such places exist only because people are lazy and don't want to clean them up. Sam keeps killing goblins and says that the master is absolutely right. He says that he increasingly notices that he does not think like a child at all. But he is not going to ask awkward or personal questions. But in front of strangers, let him be a little more reasonable. Darcia says that he has always been like this. It's all about his previous lives, which he hasn't forgotten. Amamiya Hiroto asks to stop talking about it and promises that he will try to act like a child sometimes, so as not to arouse suspicion. Amamiya Hiroto tells Sam that he has long wanted to ask him not to call him Lord. Carriage happily says that young master sounds just right. After all, he looks like a newborn, so young master's just right. Amamiya Hiroto tells him that he misunderstood. Darcia says that her baby is so humble, he still seems to be disgusted by this title. Sam replies that he understands the lady. The carriage tells Amamiya Hiroto to be sure that if the other spirits could speak, they would address them in the same way. He says that his daughters, unfortunately, have lost their speech forever, having lost their voices in a scream of dying madness. Amamiya Hiroto asks him if there is any way they can help. Sam replies that it is unlikely, but he has already helped them find peace, and therefore he will continue it as his master. Amamiya Hiroto wants to say something, but then a skeletal monkey appears and scares him. Amamiya Hiroto understands and pets the skeleton, saying that he is a good boy and a good boy. Sam asks Amamiya Hiroto if he would like him to act like a fellow monkey. Amamiya Hiroto introduces the monkey as Sam. Amamiya Hiroto becomes awkward and uncomfortable, so he says that the young master is suitable for him. Sam agrees. Darcia sighs and apologizes because she has reached her limit for today. She asks the others to look after her son. Everyone obeys. She strokes Amamiya Hiroto's head and wishes him sweet dreams, and he also wishes his mother good night. Here, Sam tells Amamiya Hiroto that he, more than anyone else, understands the bitterness of his loss and will do everything so that none of them will experience it again. Hitoro thanks him. The carriage again approaches a certain tunnel. Amamiya Hiroto asks if this is the next room. Amamiya Hiroto looks down and gets angry that there are those steps again. Sam says that it is his fault. In the end, everyone together helps the carriage rise. The biggest problem with this dungeon isn't the enemies, it's the stairs. Amamiya Hiroto hopes it stays that way. They see the final boss at the end of the corridor, surrounded by knights, and he himself is dressed in armor. His eyes are burning with rage. They lift the carriage up, but along the way they are met by poisonous frogs. Amamiya Hiroto gives the order to attack them. Amamiya Hiroto says that it's getting a little annoying, but they have no choice anyway. He tells the skeletons to attack and Sam to ride forward. The frog attacks the cart with its tongue. Its tongue gets caught on the wheel, and the frog lies on the floor in a fit of agony. Amamiya Hiroto says that the frogs didn't put up much of a fight. He apologizes to Sam and says that he knows. Sam interrupts and shouts that he loves to crush monsters. He is ashamed to admit it, but it turns him on. Amamiya Hiroto says that he understands everything with him, but let him not overdo it. Sam says that everything will be for the better. He asks with great interest where the new enemies are. Meanwhile, they are already on the 4th level, like a cave of some kind. Amamiya Hiroto notices something, looks closely and sees some kind of hand sticking out of the ground. The dead are rising. Amamiya Hiroto screams that there are quite a few level 3 dead, no less. Sam screams that it's disgusting and that he hates the dead. Amamiya Hiroto tells Sam that he has bad news for him. Sam understands what he means and says that he remembers, so there was no need to remind him about it. Sam says that they seem to have problems. The dead seem to be advancing. Amamiya Hiroto says that he sees it, and that it's time to back off a bit and think of a plan. Suddenly, all the dead people move to the sides and clear the way for them. The carriage says it doesn't understand anything. Amamiya Hiroto asks one of the dead men if they can pass, to which he nods. Suddenly, all the dead throw their weapons down. Amamiya Hiroto tells his guys to stand down. Sam asks if he is sure, maybe it is a trap. Amamiya Hiroto answers that he does not feel any danger at all. Sam rides between them and says it's amazing he was able to suppress the will of so many dead with his mere presence. Amamiya Hiroto says that's probably true, though he never expected his charm to work on them. Amamiya Hiroto remembers and says it's time to get something to eat. Sam asks if they can eat something right here. Amamiya Hiroto asks why not. There are only undead here, so they're safe. Sam agrees. Amamiya Hiroto opens the bag and says that he wants to cook this juicy toad leg. Suddenly the ghost of his mother appears, who sternly tells him that she forbade him to go near the fire. Amamiya Hiroto throws a toad leg to the skeleton and tells his mother that he knows, so the monkey is the boss today. His mother smiles at him. The skeleton tries to start a fire but fails. Sam sees and asks if the master can help with his infernal flame. Amamiya Hiroto replies that, unfortunately, it is not effective in dungeons, where it is difficult to absorb the sun's heat. Finally, the fire lights up. The monkey hands Amamiya Hiroto the meat. Amamiya Hiroto praises it and tells the skeleton that it's a good job. Amamiya Hiroto is satisfied with the food and says that he overcooked it a little, but it's still delicious, even tastier than raw blood. Sam says that he doubts that it's even edible now. Amamiya Hiroto asks Sam if it's true that he was a butler before. Amamiya Hiroto is sure that he ate well back in his time. Sam replies that, frankly speaking, this is not true, because they did not live in luxury, although they lived in a real palace. But they did not complain. They were really lucky for a while. Their family, he, his wife and daughters, all worked for the same aristocrat. It was the most wonderful time, and he could not have dreamed of anything better. Unfortunately, soon his wife fell ill and died. The same disease took the life of their master, and therefore soon their services were no longer needed, and they had to move to the city. They, however, did not despair and hoped for the best. Unfortunately, during this journey they were suddenly attacked by villains. This is all about robbers and poor daughters. Sam says that the master himself knows everything from now on. He decided to shelter them and protect their souls from oblivion. Amamiya Hiroto asks Sam why he is sad. He asks for forgiveness and says that something has overwhelmed him. He says that he is still glad because they have a meaning to their existence again. He even likes being a cart. Amamiya Hiroto looks at his 2 daughters. Suddenly, the goblins begin to growl. Then Amamiya Hiroto thanks everyone for the welcome and they leave. On the way, they see some kind of chest. Amamiya Hiroto wonders what he's doing here. Darcia tells him to be careful because they can be dangerous. It could be a trap. He won't know until he checks. Darcia says that the chest needs to be unlocked first, which is often quite difficult. Amamiya Hiroto says that now they will find out what is what. Darcia asks him if he is sure. Amamiya Hiroto reaches out and commands the chest to rise. The chest first knocks with something and then opens. Sam says it's very clever to animate and control the chest, making it your ally. He thinks it's a fun way to do it. There was a bottle in the chest. Amamiya Hiroto picks it up and asks what it is. It looks like poison. Sam says it's not poison but an elixir. Amamiya Hiroto asks if it's a healing potion with suspicion. Darcia says that it is exactly that, a very useful thing, and he also has a high-quality mixture in his little hands. Amamiya Hiroto asks his mother if she understands this. She replies that she understands a little. It's all about the color. The brighter it is, the more saturated the potion is, and this one is quite well preserved. Sam says that such an elixir can be sold for no less than 10,000 Amida. Even among the aristocrats, it will be a novelty. Amamiya Hiroto is surprised and asks how effective it is. Darcia replies that you won't be able to grow a new arm with it, but it will deal with almost any wound. It will also restore stamina, mana, and rid you of diseases or poisons. Hiroto says that he has a treasure in his hands. It's no wonder why everyone is rushing to these dungeons. There are so many wonders here. Darcia says that this is not always the case. Often seekers come across only worn knives and useless accessories, but treasures like the one he found are a real jackpot. Amamiya Hiroto looks at the potion with interest. They arrive and see some gates right inside the dungeon. Amamiya Hiroto asks why there is a gate in the middle of the dungeon. He realizes that something is wrong here. Darcia says that it is probably a boss room. The strongest mob always lives at the bottom of the dungeon. Amamiya Hiroto wonders if it's worth going there. Each of his warriors was at least level 4, but they hadn't even fought, so they had no idea how strong they were. Sam asks if the master wishes to turn back. Amamiya Hiroto thinks about it and says that it would be strange since they are already here. He suggests that they try to fight and, if necessary, escape. He addresses the skeletal bear. The bear cub opens the gate. The cart enters a new room, after which the gate abruptly closes. Amamiya Hiroto is surprised that they have opened. Knights in armor are advancing on them with weapons. Sam shouts that these are animated armors, empty armors that have been possessed by spirits. Amamiya Hiroto says that they are not bothering him. He tells Sam to look more closely. Right behind them further sits the main one. Darcia sees it and screams in horror that it's a skeleton general and that they can't defeat him. Amamiya Hiroto only becomes more interesting. Amamiya Hiroto gets off the carriage. Sam is worried about what he is doing, where he is going. Amamiya Hiroto appears right in front of the general. Behind him, the general raises his sword in anger, but then sits down on one knee in front of Amamiya Hiroto. Amamiya Hiroto tells him that it is very kind of him. The skeletons are completely disappointed. Darcia claps her hands and rejoices. Sam says that the master has subjugated the general himself. Darcia says that he is such a sweetheart. The skeleton hands him an axe. Amamiya Hiroto says that he can't just accept his gift. Then he turns to another. Amamiya Hiroto hands this weapon to the general and asks him to accept this shield and axe from them, which they got from the bandits. He awkwardly accepts it. Amamiya Hiroto says that there is more, then holds out his palm. In an instant, everything becomes too bright. Sam does not understand and asks what is happening. The general screams and then changes his appearance. Sam sees that he has raised his level. He asks what he did. Amamiya Hiroto says that now he is satisfied. The upgrade worked. Amamiya Hiroto didn't even know he could do that. He decides it's worth trying on the others. The other skeletons look at the general in shock. Amamiya Hiroto says that attaching the soul to the armor is indeed a good idea, since the ghosts will have a stronger material body, and will even be able to hold weapons, which should increase their combat power. Sam says that this is very reasonable and asks him to use the souls of his daughters. Amamiya Hiroto asks if he really wants this. Sam says that of course he wants to. It's better than nothing. He knows that Celia and Rita won't be much help in a fight, and they're not very good maids, but they can at least help with the cooking. So he's asking them now. Amamiya Hiroto tells Sam with a smile that it's not worth asking like that. It's not a question at all whether it's worth finding suitable armor for them. Sam thanks him very much. Amamiya Hiroto says that they will look through their chests if they don't mind. Amamiya Hiroto opens them and sees 5 chests. Amamiya Hiroto takes out some underwear from one of them and asks in disappointment what it is. Sam yells that it looks like magic armor. All of these are parts of one steel set naturally made for sophisticated ladies. There is very little material there. Sam says that he thinks this is what they were looking for. Amamiya Hiroto asks if they should look some more. He thinks to himself that this is not a good choice for daughters. Sam resists and says that they have waited too long. Amamiya Hiroto agrees and tells him not to complain later. Amamiya Hiroto uses his powers and places the girls' souls into the armor. Sam calls out his daughters' names. Amamiya Hiroto says that in a few levels they will also talk to their dad. Amamiya Hiroto looks and says that this is an unexpected find and calls the underwear by other names. Sam says that these are strange names for armor. Amamiya Hiroto says that this is a little different. It seems that this fashion has not reached their world yet. Amamiya Hiroto looks at Sam. Sam smiles with tears in his eyes, looking at his daughters. Amamiya Hiroto also smiles and says, "What difference does it make now what is called what?" The chapter begins with a fight where a fearsome general who swings his sword is fought by adventurers. Some adventurer coughs and doesn't understand what's wrong with this monster. Its level is definitely not appropriate for this dungeon. He shouts to the other guys not to give up, and that they just need to push and attack together, and everyone listens to him. The boss attacks, he manages to hit the monster, he falls, and his axe breaks. The adventurer sits down and sighs heavily with relief that they finally made it. The girl next to him says that it seemed like they were doomed. The girl says that this is a very strange place. No one on the upper floors, but starting from the third tier, full of high-level mobs, had to retreat and regroup more than once. The boss says that they still managed, which means it's time to share the reward. He hopes for a big jackpot. Suddenly, someone shouts and calls them to him. The boss asks with a smile what happened. He has already started to search the chests here. Let him wait and let them participate too. The adventurer says there is nothing here. The boss asks if there are really any artifacts. He says nothing. Maybe there are enough other valuables in this place. He shouts again that it is empty here. The adventurer turns to the boss and shouts that there are no artifacts, nothing, absolutely no loot. The boss and the others look at him in fear and disappointment and do not understand how. An awkward silence falls. The boss shouts, "How is this possible? He is sure that this cannot be." He asks again if he has checked everything for sure. He answers that he has looked at everything for sure. There is nothing useful here. Another suggests that it looks like someone has been there before them. The boss shouts that it is impossible since they destroyed the boss. He asks how someone managed to get his treasure without defeating that monster general. Some people suggest that maybe nothing ever happened here. They understand that this is an unpleasant explanation, but they don't see any other option. The boss starts shouting that this is a disaster. The dungeon is bad. He starts cursing at the dungeon. His comrade asks who he is talking to. At this time, Amamiya Hiroto takes a breath and sneezes. Sam asks him if he has a cold. He is sitting on a cart and leading 2 horses. Amamiya Hiroto says that it is more likely that someone is speaking ill of him, although he does not believe in such omens. Someone is fighting nearby. Amamiya Hiroto sees it and says that it is an interesting choice of weapons. A spear and a halberd, although quite complicated. These are the girls learning to fight. Considering that the girls have only recently begun to adapt to their new shells, it's an interesting choice. Amamiya Hiroto asks if they should improve their movement skills first. The skeleton and the girls are distracted by him. Sam says that he thinks they know what they're doing. Amamiya Hiroto easily agrees, since Sam thinks so. Amamiya Hiroto yells at them that if they feel uncomfortable, it's better to switch to a simpler weapon. They continue to fight. Amamiya Hiroto realizes that they don't seem to care. Sam says that they are very involved in the process because they want to become stronger and therefore more useful to Amamiya Hiroto. Amamiya says awkwardly that he is glad of their mood, but isn't this a dangerous undertaking? He does not force the girls. Sam says that it is unlikely that battles can be called dangerous if they have no body. Wounds do not bother them at all. Amamiya Hiroto says that Sam is right, and then calls Celia and Rita over, asking them to come over for a minute because he has an interesting thought. They both approach with interest. Amamiya Hiroto uses his powers again. The girls start shaking and fall to the ground. Amamiya Hiroto is asked what it was. Was it the same spell he used to pump up the general's skeleton? Amamiya Hiroto says that it is, and that he tried to give them part of his power, but something went wrong. He can't explain it yet. Sam asks what the difference is between the last case and this one. Amamiya Hiroto replies that it seems they are missing something. They can only wait until they level up themselves. Suddenly, he is touched by the hand of one of the girls. They are shy. Amamiya Hiroto does not understand what they want. Sam suggests that they ask him to try again, and they felt something. Amamiya Hiroto says that he will try again after he gains a few levels on his own. He will help when it becomes difficult for them to develop. Amamiya Hiroto tells the girls to get back to training and tells Sam that it's time to get down to business. Sam asks what business he's talking about. Amamiya Hiroto says he'll try making nut juice from what they gathered yesterday. Sam wonders what kind of juice can be made from nuts. Darcia says it's easy. You just have to roast the nuts a little bit first, then let them cool and peel them. They're helped by their kitchen helper, an earth golem. Amamiya Hiroto absorbs heat to cool down and grabs nuts with his long nails. Darcia tells him that he has the same claws as his father. He didn't even need a knife. Amamiya Hiroto says that he recently learned how to release them. He thinks it might be a useful skill in the future. Darcia asks if he has any long-term plans yet. Amamiya Hiroto replies that he plans to become an adventurer and even a noble. Darcia says that this is rather ambitious. But does he dream of something more? Amamiya Hiroto asks what she means. What could be more significant than becoming the ruler of the entire world? Amamiya Hiroto assures that no one will dare to harm him anymore. Social status, power, this will be their shield. Darcia awkwardly answers that she understands. She asks what after he defeats all the villains, what will he do then? He really thinks about it, ponders for a long time, looks around. Darcia smiles and thinks to herself that she knew it. Amamiya Hiroto continues to remain silent and think, but finally tells her that he will simply enjoy life. Darcia asks how this will happen. He lists family, success, wealth. Darcia asks if her baby really wants a lot of money. Amamiya Hiroto replies that, no. He doesn't want mansions or luxury. He doesn't want to live too lavishly. But he meant that he also doesn't want to need anything. He wants to live a free life. Darcia is surprised by the answer of the little girl. Amamiya Hiroto remembers his first life. The teacher in the class tells the children to pay attention to page 24. At that moment, Amamiya Hiroto drops his pencil on the floor. This pencil is picked up by another person. Amamiya Hiroto thanks him. But that boy starts laughing and saying that he copied with his pencil. The pencil was very short. The teacher reprimanded them. Hiroto politely asks to give it back to him because he doesn't have another one. The boy asks in surprise if he really doesn't have another one. The boy asks in surprise if he really doesn't have another one. Amamiya Hiroto says that he is serious and that he has to use it until there is nothing left. He cannot afford a new one. Amamiya Hiroto extends his hand and asks him to give it to him again. He refuses him shortly, which surprises Amamiya Hiroto. The boy then gives him his pencil and tells him to take it. Then Amamiya Hiroto is very surprised by this action. There was a drawing on the pencil. The boy said that it was the great hero Dub, but he had many of them at home, and he also asked him to forgive him for making fun of him. Then Amamiya Hiroto took the pencil from him and thanked him. Later, at home, he was writing in his notebook in a good mood. Then an adult comes up and takes the pencil away from him. He looks at the drawing and asks him what it is and demands an explanation. Amamiya Hiroto yells out in concern that his friend gave it to him, at which point the man breaks the pencil for no reason and throws it in the trash. Amamiya Hiroto doesn't have time to react and is slapped by the man, causing him to fall face down on the floor. He angrily shouts that he forbade him to waste time on stupid toys. What will happen to him when he dies, he calls him ungrateful. He adds with the same shout that he will die the next day after he is gone. He asks Amamiya Hiroto if he understood this. Amamiya Hiroto then asks for forgiveness, lowering his eyes. But he does not calm down and continues to shout. Why is he apologizing? The man frantically searches his room, asking if he is really hiding his toys from him. It would be better if he gave him everything. They will throw them in the trash. Amamiya Hiroto remembers all this without a smile. His juice is finally ready. Darcia praises him, saying that he is a smart boy. She strokes his head and says how great he is. Amamiya Hiroto looks up at her in thought. He tells her that maybe he will reconsider his views in the future, but first he wants to get to Orbam as soon as possible. Darcia smiles at him and agrees, adding that there is no need to rush. They are moving on. Amamiya Hiroto says that he feels cold. He assumes that winter is coming. Sam says that there is still plenty of time before the cold weather and that it has probably gotten cooler since they finally reached demon territory. He says it looks like it's only going to get worse. It'll be hard to get through this area before spring. So he suggests settling down and doing some hunting. Sam hopes for villains too. Sam says that he's also a little pumped up after the last dungeon, which means he's ready for revenge again. Amamiya Hiroto tells him that he has indeed become stronger and more material, and his spirit is in excellent shape. Sam asks if the master really thinks so, although his spirit is now not only his human body, but the entire carriage as a whole. Amamiya Hiroto tells him to be quiet and listen for something. Amamiya Hiroto asks if that is a woman's scream. He replies that it sounds like that. Amamiya Hiroto adds that there is a smell of fresh blood in the air. Amamiya Hiroto says thoughtfully that the bandits must have attacked a girl. Sam asks him what he will order to do. Amamiya Hiroto thinks he's not sure if they have enough strength, and they don't know how many there are, considering the possibility of reinforcements. He knows Sam wants to help her, but the decision is his. Amamiya Hiroto calls a vulture to him. The bird spreads its wings and flies. Sam asks Amamiya Hiroto, who immediately tells him to be calm. First, it is necessary to scout out the situation. Amamiya Hiroto uses the ability and sees what is happening. He describes that the girl is unconscious on the ground, surrounded by 5 men. Amamiya Hiroto sees something terrible and immediately tells Sam to go ahead and leave no one alive. Sam smiles and obeys him. Amamiya Hiroto says that the chance of winning is not very high, and yet they have no right to leave the girl in trouble. But if she decides to turn them in, Amamiya Hiroto decided to personally deal with the girl. He orders the guys to gather. Everyone obeys. Amamiya Hiroto declares that the time for justice has come. In the forest, one girl asks the other girls if they are ready, and she said, "Today they will continue to do herbalism." The girls answer that they are ready, except for one. This girl shows with her whole appearance that she is bored and uninterested. They ask her if something happened because she looks unwell. Wilder replies that she feels a bit uneasy about them being so close to the border of the demon territory. Why don't they have the lesson closer to their village? Ta says that if they have to leave their hideout, then it would be better if they knew the world around them. Vilda agrees and says that she is right. The chief girl says that she must pass on her knowledge to them so that their kind can continue to prosper in the strange world. Do they now understand why this is so important to them? All 3 of them tell her that they understand. The chief smiles at them and says that this is excellent, holding his staff in his hand. The girls start talking about how cool she is. They want to touch her. Just let them look at her beautiful eyes. They think she is so cute. Wilda tells the girls that maybe it's disrespectful in a way, but isn't she sweet? The chief grumbles that they actually have a lesson. The girls apologize to her with smiles. The chief sighs and thinks that they are so frivolous. What are they thinking? She thinks that she needs to spend more time on their discipline and teach them to protect themselves. She thinks that she should talk to a certain Vigoro about it. Then the girls call her. Wilda asks her if it is time to start. The chief turns to them and answers that they are right. She explains using the example of one plant that is often used in treatment. If you fry its root correctly, you will get a good tincture for colds. She asks them to remember this well. They obey. The chief smiles, shouts that it is excellent, and decides to continue. She points to the mushroom and says that the boars hate it. Then suddenly someone makes a sound. The chief immediately turns on her wild side for defense and protection. She growls. The next second, an arrow flies at her. She dodges so that the arrow hits a tree. The man realizes that they have been spotted. The other one swears at the shooter that they were only caught because of him. He tells him to shut up and that they need to immediately surround them faster. Otherwise, the girls might escape. 5 bandits emerge from the bushes and surround him. Wilda sees them, her eyes frozen in fear. The chief immediately uses his magic. One bandit shouts that we need to act because they are advancing using magic. Another one gets scared and asks if this is what he was talking about earlier. Someone throws a net at them to neutralize them. The girls put their weapons in front of them so that the net flies back to the bandits and covers them. The chieftain roars and casts his spell on the bandits, causing them to lose their senses and see nothing. The leader mentally sends the girls a command to run away from them quickly. They obey and run away wildly. One tries to open his eyes, staggering in place. Then the leader runs up to him and kicks him right in the back. Here the girls turn to the leader. She mentally answers them not to worry about her and just leave. Wilda stops. The girls tell Vilda that it was an order, so they need to call someone for help as soon as possible. Vilda sadly replies that she understood them. She thinks along the way that they probably had no other choice but to run away. She starts to cry and mentally asks for forgiveness for their weakness. The bandits realize that they have escaped. Then the second one says that they can still catch one of them. He doesn't understand. Wouldn't it be better for them to try to catch 3, not 1? He says no. They will easily get lost in unfamiliar forests. He smiles and adds that, besides, the remaining one, who seems to be a strong sorceress, will get more for her head than all 3 of them put together, so he orders the guys not to let her escape. The chief runs away and thinks that it's great. She managed to take them on herself. He exhales and thinks that if she were younger, she would have laid all 5 of them down in one fell swoop. But now she doesn't even have the strength to hide. She didn't expect this from herself. Suddenly the arrow flies again, but passed. The man missed again. The chief exhales because she almost got caught. She decides that she will have to maneuver. She jumps and finds herself on the edge of the cliff. She rolls down and hits the ground. She is shaking in pain and knows that she can't escape, so it looks like this is the end. She thinks that everything is not so bad. She still managed to protect her tribe. The Gera will be a better leader than her. She thinks that he will definitely not let her down. She remembers the girls, thinking that they are not yet able to defend themselves, but she hopes that they will become stronger with training. She smiles bitterly at the thought that her time has come and that it is time for her to go. Meanwhile, the bandits are approaching her. They reason and laugh. Was it really an unfortunate fall? Sooner or later, they would have caught her anyway. She still thinks that this is the end of her path. There is no point in continuing to fight. She will not win anyway. Her deeds have come to an end. Such is her fate. A bandit comes and turns her over on her back with his foot. She turns over unconscious. He laughs and calls her a beauty. Another agrees with him, but adds that he prefers older ones. The chief says that such a juicy girl will cost a lot. The chief subconsciously hears all this and does not understand what they are talking about. She hears that traders like to pay a lot of money for the most delicate goods, and they themselves will have fun with this money. She suddenly opens her eyes and screams. He is surprised that she also understands them, although he expected nothing less from her. He says that they will bathe in chocolate, but then the leader clings with his hands to the neck of this main bandit. He is caught. Does she still have the strength to resist? He takes his weapon. In an instant she stops growling because a knife was stuck in her stomach. She screams in pain and the bandit says in fear that he almost died. The other advises him to be careful with her. The third one shouts not to spoil the goods. Let them watch so that she doesn't die. They don't have any potions with them. The first one says that he knows this and that he stabbed her very lightly. She definitely won't die from that. He walks up to her, laughs in her face, and says that he hurt her a little and that she must admit that she is holding up well. This blade is enchanted to deal triple damage according to him. He says that she will suffer and beg them to kill her. She coughs and breathes heavily, tears flowing from her eyes. He shouts that now it's time to pamper themselves a little. He thinks they deserve it. They tell him just not to leave bruises. He tells her to be obedient. She understands what he wants from her. One bandit says to hurry up because we need to get out of this damn forest. He enjoys the time. Then suddenly an arrow flies at the bandit. They get scared and shout that someone shot Mark. The main bandit wonders if the girls have returned. The other says that this is not so. It is different. A carriage with undead is driving by. They are scared and don't understand what they are doing here, he shouts. What difference does it make? He orders to take down the archer and quickly. The archer shoots an arrow again, but Mark manages to dodge it, and Mark shouts that he is no match for him. Amamiya Hiroto says that his bow skills really leave much to be desired. Odin starts casting a spell. Amamiya Hiroto also shoots a dark ball at him. This person is enveloped in darkness. He finds himself in some kind of vacuum. He does not understand what happened. One of the bandits shouts that they will close, so let him deal with the shield. Then he hears Sam's voice. He shouts at them to save themselves, otherwise he will happily crush their skulls, and the bandits realize that this is very bad. But then one of them shouts at them to go only forward. After that, they run away from the cart. They scream in panic to save themselves. Whoever can. One by one, the horses are running over. Finally, all the bandits have gathered in one circle. Sam watches and smiles with anticipation. A brutal fight between the undead and the bandits begins. People barely resist the ghosts. The skeleton rides with the girls in a cart, and then he jumps straight at the bandit, who manages to defend himself with his shield. They shout that the third-rank undead crawled so far from the demon lands. The other one replies that he has no idea. He just swings his sword. One yells at the one stuck in the vacuum that they could use his help. The other one replies that he is trying, but he can't use magic. This strange barrier is absorbing all his mana. Hiroto thinks that it seems like the boy has figured out how his magic-absorbing shield works, but no matter how hard he tries, it won't save him, because he has nothing else to help with, no matter how hard he tries. As for his warriors, all their physical damage is unlikely to harm them. He says that they lost this battle back when they lost their magician. Then the girls come out and beat the one who interacted with the chief. He doesn't understand what this is all about because one of the girls is just standing there waving her weapon at him. He thinks that this thing is not particularly dangerous. It can't even hold its own weapon. He sees it and realizes that it is headless and bodiless. He wonders if this creature even has any weak points. Then the girl jumps right at him, and he doesn't know where to strike. He takes out a knife and yells that he doesn't have time, so he'll just do it. He plunges the knife into the middle of her transparent body. She closes herself off from embarrassment, but feels nothing. Silence sets in. Then a cart comes after them. Sam shouts that he dared to stab his daughter. Here the bandit screams in panic. The horses of the cart knock the bandit down, so that he hits the ground several more times and flies further and further. All the bandits are lying down without strength. Sam reports that the cleanup is complete and asks for forgiveness from the master for his behavior and that he allowed rage to take hold of him. Hiroto says that everything is fine. He will heal him with his magic, and in a while he will feel better. Hiroto says that the bone monkey and the guys actually also received significant damage. But in a couple of days they will be as good as new, and Rita's clothes too. However, this fight became an invaluable experience for them. They must understand that they were fighting a fairly low-level opponent, but when faced with a high-ranking enemy, they could lose the battle just as easily as these guys. Sam, in doubt, asks if Hiroto really decided to save the girl without even knowing the enemy's level. Hiroto remembers Sam's daughters, his mother, and replies that it is, but they should be more careful next time. Sam smiles at him. Hiroto hears a groan from the chieftain's girl. He goes over and asks if she's okay, then notices the sword in her. He thinks she doesn't look so bad, but this thing seems to hurt her. He reaches out and neutralizes the nice place. The chief coughs and looks at him. Hiroto doesn't understand, because more should have gone. He says he will treat his wounds. The chief calls him young master. Sam tells him that he is a death mage. He has not heard of such magic being used for healing. He replies that he is right and that it is impossible. Hiroto enters the carriage and asks Sam not to tell him that he forgot about the elixir they found in the general's skeleton dungeon. Sam asks in surprise if he is seriously talking about it. Hiroto approaches the girl again. As soon as he reaches out for the sword, she begs him not to pull it out. Hiroto tells her to calm down because the pain is coming from the magic of this item. After he takes it out, it will soon go away. He suggests doing it quickly. He pulls out his sword and pours a potion on the wound. The girl screams in pain. Soon her wound heals. The bleeding stops. Hiroto says that it really is a good potion. The wound healed so quickly, such a useful item. He throws the bottle away. Sam looks at him in surprise. Sam thinks to himself that if the master knew his true value, he would not speak so calmly about it. Hiroto introduces himself to the girl as Vandal. She says nothing and gets dressed. Hiroto says that he will bring her hot water and a towel. She remains silent. Hiroto understands that she is not even listening to him. Hiroto scratches the back of his head awkwardly and thinks that she's probably still in shock. He doesn't know what to do. At home, he would go to the police, and his mother is still resting. Besides, it's just her soul. She just won't see it. He thinks maybe his sisters can do something. After all, they are girls too. Then Sam calls him and shouts that he can do anything. Hiroto wonders if they even understand what's going on here. 3 lives are not enough to understand women. How should he behave with a girl who was just almost killed? Hiroto begins to stutter and speak. Here the girl with tears in her eyes throws herself into his arms and sobs. Hiroto doesn't know what to do. She cries and cries. He taps her on the shoulder with his little hands because she is squeezing him too hard. He thinks that she will either crush him or tear him with her sharp claws. He tells himself to calm down and be a man. It's the lesser of the evils he's been through. Here he begins to cough and mentally asks his mother to help. For the first time in his 3 lives, he hugs a woman. He calls it a peaceful death. She tells him that she is incredibly grateful to him. that he is her savior and the one who defeated those bandits. And also he used such an expensive potion to cure her. She can't imagine how to thank him for this. Hiroto sits on her lap and says it's nothing. Sam tells the young master that they will soon arrive at the village. To be honest, Hiroto himself was a little surprised that he had saved this girl who was now riding with them in the carriage. The chief explains that she suffered from the pain of hell for so long because of that knife. Even for them, ghouls who are known for their endurance, it was still too painful. Hiroto thinks that means she used to live deep in a demon territory. No wonder she almost crushed him when she hugged him. She says that they even wanted to sell her. She thinks that humans are horrible. Hiroto asks her if ghouls are some kind of undead. Sam explains that when he was human, he believed that the ghoul race was superior to zombies and closer to vampires. The chief tells him that he was right. They share the same ancestors. But they are still a little different. They, just like them, are the ancestors of two sisters who gave birth to vampires. She tells them that they are direct descendants of the goddess Vida and not some zombies. Hiroto sits and thinks that it is true. She certainly does not look like a dead person. Hiroto says that Mom said something about ghouls rarely leaving their territories. She says that's true anyway, that's how it's been all along. But she was too careless and fell into the clutches of these monsters. She can't believe that they tried to do this to her. Some people are no better than dirty orcs. Hiroto tells her that she seems special to him. It's quite possible that they've been tracking them for a long time, since they were chasing her from the very beginning, so she should be more careful. The chief starts to blush. Hiroto asks what happened. She panics and replies that nothing at all. She thinks to herself that his words don't sound childish at all. They make her heart flutter. And his eyes. To experience some strange feelings, she stops herself. He's just a child. What is she thinking about? She wonders if this is how his vampire charisma works. She starts awkwardly saying that she doesn't think they were interested in her, considering her age, and that they should hurry and warn the other women in the village. Hiroto asks about her age. The girl smiles. They are surprised that she is 290 years old. She says that finally, the opportunity to get to know each other properly has presented itself. Her name is Zadiris. She is the elder of the ghoul village. She says that on average they live about 300 years, so in any case, her time should come very soon. Hiroto says he's sure the bandits had no idea how old she is, and she replies that they do, and that other races aren't very knowledgeable about them and their characteristics, since they mostly only interact with their own kind. Females stop aging once they reach puberty, so only the villagers know each other's true ages approximately. She asks him in the middle of his story if he's fallen asleep. Hiroto replies that he hasn't. He doesn't understand how to explain his slight disappointment to her. She asks if she can ask him for another favor. Hiroto says that she has turned pale. Is it something serious? The chief asks him not to mention that they found her screaming like a little girl. He says that he was already thinking about something really important. She, in a panic, says that actually it is really important. So she asks him. Hiroto says that it's no problem at all. It's unlikely that he would share the details of their raid with anyone. Sam yells that something is coming towards them. Hiroto assumes that it is monsters. He does not feel threatened. He tells them not to stop. They will see what is what. Some muscle men come out in front of them. The leader shouts that these are guys from their village. They all point their spears at them at once, but do not attack. One of the jocks says that they received a distress signal from Mistress Wilda, but he asked to be allowed to ask why she brought all these undead with her. Hiroto asks if these are ghouls too. They really do look like demons. Sam explains that males and females are fundamentally different from each other. The chief says that this is their first meeting, so she orders them to lower their weapons, because this squad saved her from the bandits. They ask in surprise if this is really a squad led by this kid. They say that he is a child. How could he possibly subjugate all these creatures? Here, behind these ghouls, the largest and, apparently, the main one comes out. This is that Vigaro, everyone else, is surprised. She scolds Vigaro. What was he thinking? Did he really leave the settlement without a leader? He tells her that she is their leader, so it is his duty as her right hand to lead the party to rescue her. Zadiris says that this is still an unforgivable indulgence. He is responsible for the safety of the village when it is outside its borders. Vigaro asks her to stop talking like that. He shouts that for them she is still their leader, and as long as she is alive, his most important duty remains to protect her. He does not even want to hear such nonsense. He asks what if one of these adventurers had hurt her. She exhales and asks him to stop being hysterical. Sometimes it seems to her that something is wrong with his head. Figaro is outraged by such a statement. He shouts that he has a strong head. Once he even killed an orc with one blow of his head. Zadira sighs from fatigue. He asks her what they will do with the baby. Zadira says that to begin with, they will invite him to the village as the most honored guests and arrange peace. How could it be otherwise? Figaro shouts that of course, she is right. But wasn't she the one who initiated the ban on interaction between them and other races? She replies that it is true. She smiles and says that this young man is a different matter. They will make a small exception for her savior and have a feast. He swallows and says that he, of course, is not against a feast. He tries to read Hiroto. His eyes are empty and he doesn't understand what this kid is thinking. But he also doesn't feel any evil thoughts. He thinks that this is an amazing child. And yet he is sure that he is interested in what is happening. He feels the desire to be its ally. Hiroto says that if they are against it, they can leave right now. Figaro immediately shouts that not at all. They are glad to see them. They are not against it at all. Hiroto asks if this is too rash. Figaro asks the kid's name. He replies Vandal. Figaro says it's nice to meet him and asks him to follow them. Figaro growls and shouts that they are coming back. Artaud gets scared and asks what's wrong with this guy. Sadiris tells him not to pay attention because he's always like this. Figaro shouts that the chief is safe, so let them welcome the guests. They'll have a big feast. Everyone celebrates the return of the chief, drinks to their elder and her savior. They eat shashlik and say that it is delicious. The meat that was given to him is the best. Figaro tells Hiroto to try the meat, assuring him that it's incredibly delicious. Vidiris asks if they weren't the ones eating it in the first place, so he should stop. Hiroto thanks him but declines, saying that he already had his snack so he should enjoy it with the others. Of course he is pleased by his sincerity, but he can't take it because the meat was made from those guys. When he came to the village, he didn't think it was that similar to a human village, excluding the fact that they were demons. Hiroto is offered a peace because they think the food is divine. Zadiris tells Figaro to stop and that he is annoying him. Besides, he is a dhampir. He only needs to drink blood. He does not eat it. Figaro gets upset. Then those three girls come to them, push Figaro aside and say that they want to talk about something with the savior. Vilda laughs and comes close to Hiroto. Zadiris explains that these girls are the youngest in the tribe. She took it upon herself to train them. Vilda strokes Hiroto's head. Hiroto thinks that they really look young. He thinks that Zadiris looks even younger than them, even though she is already 290 years old. No wonder she was captured. Wilda picks him up and holds him close, thanking him for saving the elder of their village. One says he is so cute and that his hair is like a lion's mane. Someone praises his beautiful multicolored eyes. Others throw in their hands from Vilda. Zadiris asks them not to be so rude to the savior. Hiroto wonders if these girls liked him. He finally found a peaceful place. Hiroto laughs demonstratively. Vilda says that he seems to be having fun. The other girl says doubtfully that she doesn't know. Another one asks the savior if he could touch her belly. She wants her children in the future to be as strong as he is. Wilda introduces herself to Hiroto and asks if she can name her child after him. Hiroto thinks that even though they look young, they are either pregnant or already have children. Vilda asks why he went silent. Did he not like it or what? She again says she doesn't know. Darcia asks if they will really live in this village all winter. She wonders if something happened. He replies that nothing happened. Ghouls are not undead, they are descendants of the goddess Vida, just like vampires. Darcia says that's why she's worried. He can control the undead, but not them. He doesn't know when they'll get hungry, and at any moment he could become their food. Hiroto says that he thinks everything is fine compared to humans. Life here is much better. Darcia asks again if everything is really okay, just live in the demon village for as long as possible. In any case, if they want to cross the mountains, they will have to wait until next spring. Zadiris said that they can stay here as long as they want. Besides, Zadiris knows quite a lot about magic. He thinks it would be nice to learn from her before spring. Darcia says that if he wants to learn magic, Wouldn't it be better to join the magic guild in the Orbomb Kingdom? Why learn from a ghoul? Hiroto says that it's not a good idea. She asks why. He explains that one of the adventurer's souls told him that in order to live in human territory, one must have a guild card or an ID card. And to get this card, you need to register with the Adventurers Guild, which is how they find out about him. Darcia asks what's so special about that. He replies that, in other words, the guild will receive information from his status, including the death magic that does not exist in this world, as well as the curse that the old man put on him, and he guesses how it will end. Darcia is scared. In the worst case, he will become a test subject again, which is why it is dangerous to study magic in the kingdom. Darcia says that she understands. She adds that he must be careful. If he senses danger, he must run away immediately. He answers that he understands. The girls surrounded Hiroto again. Wilda asks what happened to his clothes. It looks like he just wrapped a piece of cloth around himself. Hiroto asks her not to tell him anything about his clothes. He made them from what he found in the bandit's lair. He looks at the girls. To be honest, he thought that ghouls preferred to walk around without clothes. It seems that they also care about their appearance. He looks at himself and decides that he is too wild. Vilda thinks about it and then offers to make clothes for him. She only knows how to make women's clothes, but he looks like a girl, so she thinks he'll be fine with it. He refuses, thanks. He prefers clothes for his gender. Someone comes up to him and suggests doing something with his hair. If he does a woman's hairstyle, it would be very nice. He repeats that gender is important to him. Then someone comes up to them and asks what they are doing here. A pumped-up woman comes in. Vilda calls her Bastia. She's back. They immediately ask what they're having for dinner. They are not happy that it is a goblin. Bastia tells them to stop complaining because it is hard to catch anything else at this time of year. She turns her attention to Hiroto and asks what it is, if it is a ghost. She is told that although he looks like that, he is very strong after all. He saved the elder. Bastia is surprised and walks straight up to Hiroto, who looks at her body and admires her muscles. Bastia asks if he is the guy who saved her mother. She thanks him and calls him baby. He is surprised that Zadirus is her mother. Bastia cuts the meat and gives it to Hiroto. He takes a bite and swallows it with difficulty. Bastia asks him if he liked the goblin. Hiroto looks at it with doubts and thinks. Firstly, this strange purple-blue meat does not make him hungry, and also, its taste is too bland, although the aroma is not so bad, but he cannot say that he likes it. He thinks about how to tell her. He tries to force a smile and tells her that it is very tasty. Bastia asks in surprise if he is serious, what he ate before, and if he even knew that no one here likes it. Hiroto realizes that she is the type of person who speaks directly to her face. He decides that he should tell her the truth. He says that he meant that it tastes better than the frog leg he ate earlier. Bastia pats him on the head and says that everything is fine. He is only 1 year old. He still has a lot of time ahead to enjoy delicious food, so he should not worry. Hiroto asks why they continue to eat goblin meat despite its disgusting taste. She replies that it is because there is nothing else to eat these days, so they have to eat goblins. Goblins are different from the local animals. They do not hibernate, so it is difficult to hunt them at any time. In addition, if you marinate the meat in the juice of the grass, it can be stored for a long time, so they call it gob-gob. Bastia says she's a little surprised he doesn't know about gob. She thought humans hunted goblins all the time. Hiroto says that it is, but not as food. She asks if that is true. She says that they do not hunt for food and calls people strange. She says that he still needs to clean up here, otherwise he might be late for practice. Hiroto thought that she only takes care of the food and the other girls clean up here. She replies that all this is done by the woman with the lowest status in the tribe, so she hunts, cooks, and does everything else. He asks in surprise if she is serious. He heard that she is one of the best warriors in the tribe. He also talks about her mother. She replies that in a village, men decide everything. When a child is born, its fate is already decided. Women are obliged to study magic, and it doesn't matter who it is. Although she fights well, her magic is very weak. She asks if he knew that she has never given birth. Hiroto thinks that in her place, other people would be very angry. Bastia says that it would be nice to become a mother, so that she can train more and have all the responsibilities taken off her. Hiroto asks why she is so eager for this. She replies that she likes strong personalities. That's why she strives to become stronger, but still, becoming very strong is quite difficult for her. Hiroto eats and asks why. She asks if it's not obvious. She's already 25, and usually ghouls get pregnant much earlier. She's too old for that, even to be an adventurer. Hiroto just looks at her, and she asks him what it is. He says that he thinks she thinks too much, and that she is still young, and besides, she is very beautiful. She smiles and says that she is glad to hear it. Bastia says that he is too young to have seed. Hiroto coughs at such words. She asks what happened. Did he choke on meat? She worries if everything is okay. He replies that everything is fine. He is just shocked by what she said. Bastia accepts his answer with surprise. She remembers something. Her mother told her that he can use unknown magic. She asks if he has the magic that will give her his seed. Hiroto resists. Bastia sighs in disappointment and says that it's bad. Later, Zadiris listens to Hiroto and asks if her daughter really said that to him. She apologizes to him. Hiroto tells her that she is her daughter. He finds it hard to accept their age difference. Zadiris is surprised. She is more shocked that he knows the meaning of the word seed. Hiroto thinks that he is a boy of 1 year old. He should not know this. He says that it is nothing special and asks her to forget. Zadiris honestly admits that she shouldn't have forced her to get pregnant. Hiroto asks if that was even necessary. She replies that it is not necessary. But as he knows, humans can choose their partner for mating, and it is very difficult for them, ghouls, to get pregnant, so if they do not take this seriously, they will die out. Hiroto asks, so it turns out that they don't know who the father of their children is. She answers that she doesn't always, in Bastia's case, know her father. Hiroto asks who it is. She replies that it is Vigoro. Usually ghouls can no longer have children at her age. That is probably why she remembered. They celebrated the victory over the kobolds. They drank so much of the drink that there was nothing left in the village. When she wakes up in the morning, she remembers the night before, and then Bastia appears. Hiroto thinks it's too fast. Zadiris tells him to be careful with the drinks. Hiroto promises he'll remember that. Zadiris says that now the time for stories is over. She suggests returning to the main topic, the study of magic. First, she would like to know what kind of magic he possesses, what kind of spell he used on those adventurers. That one shows magic absorption. Zadiris asks to wait a minute and asks how he even creates spells like that. He didn't say a word. He explains that he simply has the skill to cancel chance. She is surprised and asks if he is joking. Zadiris tells him that for that to happen, he must be at least a high-level mage or perhaps a genius, or a legendary demonic monster. But still, a boy who just turned 1 year old has this skill. She doubts what she can teach him at all. Hiroto says he doesn't know where he got this skill from, but he also has absolutely no knowledge of magic. He can't say what spells he knows. He just uses them. Zadiris asks him if he knows he's very strange. Zadiris asks if death magic is a new element. She thinks out loud, it really does exist. Well, if he has it, then it exists. Come to think of it, this is the first time she's seen the magic he wields. The real question is what she can teach. To have magic at that level means he can manipulate death magic as well as non-elemental magic. He asks what it is. She is surprised that he doesn't know it, because it is basic magic. Hiroto repeats that he is a self-taught magician. She says after a sigh that she is in shock. She decides then to start with this non-elemental magic. She says she needs to know how much mana he can use. His training time depends on it. He says about 100 million. She first says that it's acceptable, and then she screams in horror. What 100 million? She herself only has 10,000. But this child, she asks again if he is serious. Then she tells him to forget it, and that they will figure it out during practice. She doesn't know how much time she will spend with this boy, but she definitely won't regret it, because she doesn't know what he can do next time. She suggests starting. Hiroto asks her to take care of him. Vigara looks at the fields and says that spring is coming. Almost half a year has passed since they arrived. Hiroto wonders if it's been that long. Vigara says his body is in good shape, probably because he finally ate meat during this period and he feels stronger than before. Vigaro thanks the mania that keeps food longer. Hiroto says that it is to keep the death magic fresh. He is grateful to all the ghouls for helping him, which is true. And he also ate meat. Vigoro scratches his mane and says that he ate like a child. Hiroto comes out of his hair and says that he is ticklish. Vigoro asks how he's been doing with Bastia lately. He seems to like her. Hiroto asks if it's noticeable. He's sure her physical beauty is admirable. Hiroto says that Vigoro's back is also not bad. He replies that he will pretend that he didn't hear anything. Vigoro thinks it's a pity he's still a child. If he were an adult, they could offer him some girls from the village to stay. Vigoro remembers going to Zadiris and asking if it was true that they were still training with Hiroto. Zadiris asks him not to shout so loudly. She replies that they are, of course, training. Vigoro says that this means that he will not be able to leave until at least spring and may even stay until summer. Zadiris replies that he does not know. It is not for them to decide. Vigoro says he's a good guy, so he hopes his training will pay off. But once he learns magic, he'll leave. He says it's such a complicated feeling. Zadiris starts laughing loudly. He asks what's so funny. She says that it's just rare to hear something like, "What a complicated feeling," from him, so how can she not laugh? Vigoro starts to say that if he knew. Zadiris exhales and says that she understands his feelings. She would also want this little boy to stay with them. But one day he will still decide to leave, and nothing can hold him back. Vigoro watches the fight from afar and says that it is harder for them than he expected. He wants to finally get the meat that they have been missing lately. Hiroto asks him if he's going to help them. He replies no, since the students need real combat experience, and besides, these guys are no longer a problem for them. Here Sam's daughters enter the fray. Sam watches as they help each other, and says who would have thought that he would be able to watch his children grow even after death. A kobold comes out in front of one girl. She attacks first. He deflects the blow. Another kobold covers him. Here the girl is helped by her sister and finishes off the kobold. They both attack the remaining one, but he deflects both attacks at once. Another ghoul comes and kills the remaining kobold, but there are still many of them. Someone shouts that the meat is running out. Vigoro looks and says that it seems the time has come. He decides to attack the leader of the kobolds in order to eventually break their fighting spirit. He could have removed the small fry from the very beginning, but that is already unnecessary. Then someone from the bushes sees and starts howling. The girls ask if that was a howl. Another screams that it was a call. Vigoro says that it seems to be their last resort, then they will do the same. Hiroto senses something and tells Vigoro that someone is coming. The leader of the kobolds approaches them. Vigoro says they are ready. He says that this enemy will be stronger than the others. Someone suggests calling Wendell. He answers that they can handle it themselves. Vigoro asks if he doesn't believe in him anymore. He says that this guy is unimaginably strong. He doesn't think they can win without him, so they need to unite. Vigoro smiles and tells Hiroto to hold on tight, after which he attacks the kobold leader. The girls are standing. One says that they need to defeat these guys and join the others. The other one answers her that she knows, so she suggests ending this quickly. The girls see other undead and ask to help them only without spectral inspection. Skeletons come and shout that the training is over. Skeletons attack kobolds. One of the skeletons pins the kobold to the ground and it growls at him. Sam asks if they really can't immerse themselves in their turbulent world. The Zeros are doing just fine on their own. Sam sees a bone bird. He says that he would like to fly freely too. Hiroto calls someone to rebel. Kobolds are terrified by the sight of huge monsters from the earth that envelop them and make them scream. The ghouls think what a dirty trick this is. The leader of the kobolds is also not happy. Vigoro attacks and shouts with laughter that he can afford it. They fight. Hiroto is still sitting in Vigoro's fur and thinks that he is shaking harder than he thought. He needs to hold on for a couple more minutes. Vigoro attacks with his axe and hits the enemy, his blood splashing on him. Vigoro says that blood is not very tasty, but let him be sure that they will gladly cook and eat the meat. The kobold leader starts to growl. Vigoro notices that he has changed. The kobold leader attacks. Hiroto realizes that this is bad because now he is losing in strength to this guy. He wonders if he should use this. He remembers training with Zadiris, who showed him how to use attribute-less magic. You need to concentrate the magical power in the form of a sphere and hit your target with it. Such magic works on any enemy because it has no attribute. He then trained, But Zadiris said that ultimately he still has a lot of work to do on non-attribute magic. He replies that it is harder than he expected to materialize and use mana before it is touched by any attribute. Zadiris says that he only studied death magic with attributes. Of course, it will be difficult for him to use magic without them. She smiles, strokes his head, and tells him that it took her 3 years to learn her, so he has everything ahead of him. He says that it has been so long and he can't wait. Back in real time, Hiroto thinks that he hasn't finished preparing yet. The surest way he can do it now. Hiroto suddenly stands up and steps out of his fur, shocking the kobold leader into freezing in place. Hiroto chews something and spits it directly onto the kobold's wound. The kobold stands there emotionless at first, and then a rage comes over him. He raises his weapon, swings it, but lowers it because his hands won't hold it. He himself doesn't understand what's happening. He looks at Hiroto. Hiroto looks at him, and then Vigaro takes advantage of the opportunity and deprives the kobold of his head. Vigaro screams that their leader has been defeated, so now all their meat belongs to them, the ghouls and demons. The kobolds run away from them in fear. They shout that the meat is running away and catch up with them. The girls also chase and shout that they didn't manage to help Wendell, and that there are still a couple of pieces left somewhere. Hiroto and Vigara watch from above. The hands Hiroto created throw kobolds out to the sides. One ghoul says that they are in for a big catch. Vigaro asks Hiroto what he did that time. He says he used poison. He asks what kind of poison. He used a spell to turn his saliva into poison and used it on the kobold. Vigaro thanks him because it was only thanks to him that they were able to defeat such a strong opponent without losing anyone. He says that even if it was just for a moment, he had poison in his mouth. He asks if there will be any problems with that. He says that his tongue is a little numb, but since he got rid of the poison immediately, everything will be fine, but the unpleasant aftertaste still lingers. Vigaro suggests fixing this with excellent meat. He orders his men to load the meat and leaves Hiroto. The girls leave the kobolds' bodies at the cart and tell Sam that they are counting on him. He asks them to leave it on him, but asks if they drank their blood correctly. The girls say that, of course it's right, and that they and their sister will wash it later, so he shouldn't worry. Sam asks with tears in his eyes, wondering if there will ever come a day when he can rub their backs again. Someone says it will never come. Vigaro laughs out loud and says that when they get home he will cook kobold meat. He is sure he will like it. He thinks it is simply delicious. Hiroto says that his training hasn't progressed as far as he expected, so he'll be staying a little longer. Vigaro smiles, though he hides his joy. Vigaro says, it hasn't even been a year since he started, so he shouldn't worry about it. Hiroto tries the meat. Zadiris tells him that if he eats well, he might even grow. Hiroto asks if he'll really grow like Vigaro. Zadiris says doubtfully, who knows. She heard that Vigaro had been swinging an axe with all his might since he was a child. If he started training now by the time he was 3 years old, he would definitely look like Vigaro. Then Vigaro comes and asks if they are talking about him. Sam's daughters come with him and ask if they can join them so that they are free after their father. They say they wish they could try it and ask what it tastes like. Hiroto reflects that it's quite nice to live here and he's never had such a peaceful time, but he can't stay here for long. Zadiris asks him what happened. Did he like the meat? She adds that in any case it turned out better than Vigaro's. She holds out another piece of meat and asks him to try it. Hiroto turns around and notices something. She says that she has no appetite at all. Old people move little and eat less. She asks if something is wrong. What is wrong with his face? Hiroto realizes that he is seeing the shadow of death. She may hold out for a few more days, but eventually Zadiris will die. He asks her if they can talk alone for a while. She asks what happened. Hiroto says that there is an important conversation. She immediately thinks that he probably decided to leave this place. Zadiris picks it up and thinks about how she knew this day would come. She suggests they talk at her house. They leave them. Wilda asks if Wendell has already left. The other says that it is strange, because the elder is not there either. Zadiris and Hiroto are left alone. He thinks about how to tell her. Zadiris waits. He lowers his eyes. Death, which is approaching her because of the lifespan, he literally sees its presence around. Life can be extended with the help of death magic, but will Zadiris herself want it? What if she rejects his offer? Zadyrus asks if she can talk to him for a moment before he tells her about his business. He asks what it is, and she says it has to do with his training. Zadyrus tells him straight out that he has no talent. Hiroto is surprised by this statement. She asks that he probably noticed that he is learning rather slowly. Hiroto lowers his head and agrees with her. What she says is, even though he trained for half a year, his non-attribute magic is still level 1. He is just an ordinary person except he can use death magic. Zadyrus says that he has no talent in the normal sense of the word, however he has an understanding that compensates for this. He reluctantly agrees with her. From the point of view of the people of this world, he is simply recreating what he learned on Earth and on Origin. It is something alien, not his own. However, he has a colossal reserve of magic according to Zadyrus. If he devotes himself to studying magic, it will not take him so long to become a great mage that even she cannot compare to. There is silence. Zadyrus says that this is why he wants more time. She knows he is traveling for a purpose. She asks if he can give her a little more time. It becomes clear to Hiroto that she knew she was going to die. Hiroto thinks that she also trusts him so much that she asks him to extend her life. He stands up and asks her to leave it to him. She happily asks if he really understood her feelings. Hiroto says that he will start the treatment right now, so he asks her to take off her top and lie down comfortably. She doesn't understand what treatment he is talking about. She asks if it is really necessary for him to learn from her. He replies that there is no other way, and she awkwardly agrees. She asks what he's going to do. Hiroto replies that he'll make her look a little younger. She's surprised that he can do that. Hiroto enters her body and says that right now he used the spiritual body transformation on his hands to examine the condition of her body. He thinks it's a little painful, so he asks her to be patient. Then Hiroto's hands plunge into her stomach. He imagined how they dissolved into a liquid state, and were carried away by the circulating system of Zadyrus. Occupying the corners of her body, he did not see any deviations. After all, it's definitely old age. There's no illness or injury, absolutely nothing. Since he can only use death magic, he can only speed up or slow down the death of cells. Zadyrus groans in pain. Hiroto sees, as he expected, the consumption of magical power is incredibly high. She asks him what he is doing there. She has a strange feeling. Gold wonders if the elder has already returned home. What could have caused her to leave the festival? Then he hears a voice and realizes that it is the voice of the elder. He looks up and sees a little boy, Hiroto, between the Zadyrus. He opens his eyes in shock. Hiroto pulls away and says that he used his magic to the limit after a long time, so he decides to get some sleep. He lies down. Zadyrus says that she thinks if he had taken the trouble to explain it to her a little more, he wouldn't have passed out like that. She starts to yawn and lies down next to him too. That ghoul covers his mouth and doesn't understand what he just saw. Zadyrus eats the meat with relish and asks if Hiroto has death magic, so it's no wonder he's capable of something like this. But why didn't he warn her beforehand? He apologizes and says he thought she already knew about these techniques. Zadyrus asks, so that means he is not going to leave them yet. He answers that it is so. He has not yet figured out the non-attribute magic. He thinks that he will be able to help them for some time. She is glad to hear this. Vigoro was especially worried. Zadyrus stands up and says that they will continue training right now then. Hiroto asks to wait a bit because his mana has not recovered yet. He says that if she doesn't mind, at the end of the day after training they can practice rejuvenation magic. She doesn't understand and says that she has no reason to refuse. But what exactly will be the result in the end? She says that the treatment yesterday should have rejuvenated her by 10 years plus. He can use rejuvenation, which consumes so much magic power. Hiroto agrees and adds that she herself said before that it is more efficient to use mana to help her mana grow. Zadyrus asks if it is true that rejuvenation magic uses mana to the limit. He answers that it is, but his mana exceeds 100 million. After 9 days of practicing magic, its reserve should increase a little. Right now, the technique that consumes the most mana is rejuvenation. Zadyrus agrees and suggests that they work together if that's the case. It would be great to be rejuvenated by 200 years, Hiroto thanks her. As a result, he trains with all the magicians, practices Zadyrus' rejuvenation, eats deliciously. Zadyrus feels physically good. The girls are bathing and discussing the elder. They think that she behaves rather strangely. She has also changed in appearance and has become nicer. One says that she used to look like an old granny. Lately she looks so young, everyone agrees. They guess that it's since Hiroto did something. At this phrase, one ghoul who saw them shudders. Bastia comes to them and asks what they are discussing here. The girls hug her and say that according to rumors, the elder and Hiroto spend the whole day together at her house. Bastia says there's nothing to be done about it. Van says he wants to learn magic as soon as possible, and that he's Mom's benefactor, so it's okay to treat it special. Rilda asks if this is really true, then Bastia asks if there are really some rumors going around. Ghoul, named Bonato, says that the boys don't know anything either, but he saw everything. Bastia asks him if he knows anything. He replies that he didn't know, he saw. But it's time for him to go, so they'll talk some other time. The girls cling to him and ask him to tell them whether they did it. Bonato says that he should have kept his mouth shut. He didn't really want to say that he couldn't do it in any way. But he asks the girls just not to tell anyone and starts telling. The girls scream in surprise. Vilda says that this is more than she expected and that they have come this far. One doubts that a dhampir child could do such a thing. The third says that she knows that he went to the elder's house every night and did not come out until morning. But that this. Bonato asks them not to speak so loudly about it and not to say that he said it. Bastia drops the bag and says in a trembling voice, is her mother really with Wendell? She will ask them because she does not believe that they could do this. She is in shock. The girls ask if Bastia is feeling bad. She replies that it was unexpected. She says disappointedly that, after all, she has no feminine charm, and that she is a burden to her mother. They leave, and the wagon with Sam wonders if these rumors were meant for their ears. His daughters are with him too. One of them also doesn't believe it. How can it be? Because she is a ghoul. The second one also doesn't know. Maybe he wants to become an aristocrat because Zadiris is the most influential person in this village. One asks her sister what she is talking about. Rita says that she would like to have a real body. The second asks her to stop making such jokes. On a sunny day, Hiroto continues to train and succeeds in this trick, as Kadira says. Hiroto says that it took him so long to finally master non-attribute Tier 1 magic, but there is still a sense of accomplishment. Zadira says that you always have to start somewhere. It's good to keep training and then pats him on the head. She picks him up and says that they be done for this morning then. She asks if she should carry him. Hiroto twitches and says he can walk on his own. He's already 2 years old. Zadari says that he still has 2 years. Last time he tripped over a stone and fell, and was also upset that he even stopped preparing for rejuvenation. He says that it is true that she rejuvenated to the age that her appearance, so he thought that was enough. Zadira says he doesn't know what will happen next. Hiroto says that this is enough for him. Thanks to this, his mana reserve has increased. Hiroto tells her that he will go then. She asks if he will really help the girls with their work again. He says that's true. He and Bilda will be crushing acorns today. Zadiris says that he has a tight schedule as usual. She asks him not to overdo it. He says it's okay. He also uses magic to cook, so it's part of his training. Zadiris wishes him luck. If he gets too tired, ask others to help. He tells her he understands. He mentally tells the piece of wood to move faster. Vilda comes up to him and asks if he is really having fun. She wants to too. He apologizes, but he came here to help in place of someone else. Rilda calls him a cheapskate. Hiroto calls her and tells her about her promise. If it was a boy, she said she would name him after Wendell. Wilda asks for forgiveness and explains that she will not be able to give birth to the child that was in her belly at the time, but if she gets another one with the next one, she will name it after him. Hiroto is surprised and looks at the other girls. One says that last year not a single child was born, not even 2 months. One says that even she didn't last 2 months, and Wilda seemed to last longer than anyone else. She confirms and says that it was almost 3 months. Wilda asks if this means she is next after the elder. Hiroto replies doubtfully that it probably is. Here Bastia shouts at him to wait and asks him to let her be first in that case. All the girls turn to look at her. Hiroto asks Bastia to go away with him for a minute. She is embarrassed, panics and asks again, really with her. They leave. The girls even stand in line, one after the other. They go somewhere. Hiroto asks for forgiveness and says that he wants to ask Bastia about something. He asks her in shock why she is taking off her clothes. Bastia is surprised. Hiroto finally asks why Wilda and the others are not so worried about their children not being born. She explains that because unsuccessful births are more common than successful ones, miscarriages in the first months of pregnancy are already commonplace, with about 1 in 5 children born successfully. She suggests that he's interested because people experience childbirth differently. Hiroto replies that he does, and that it's different for them. Hiroto says that he doesn't think it's something they should talk about with a happy expression. She agrees and says that it might be so. Hiroto is asked if their problem is due to their race. It is normal for ghouls, who are so sexually active, to have a large number of children, but he has not seen a single child since he came to this village. Hiroto asks if that's the case, then nothing will help. He thinks that maybe he could. This is a problem that the ghoul race has been living with for 100,000 years. However, he has no reason to worry. No one has asked him to do anything. Bastia says that of course nothing can be done. Not a single child has been born in this village in the last 10 years. The mother's magic is useless here. But is it possible to do something with Hiroto's magic? Here he thinks that he was asked after all. Hiroto says that he thinks that in addition to practice, he could try to solve the problem of the declining birth rate among ghouls. Zadira says that's fine, of course, but she hopes he doesn't plan to kidnap women of other races and turn them into ghouls through a special ceremony. There is silence, and Hiroto asks in surprise if something like this is really possible. Zadira says regarding the kidnappings, it is possible, although they have not done such a thing. However, it could certainly work on the adventurer girls, but the risk is too high. She would be glad if he could find another way to avoid drawing too much attention from people. Hiroto says he will try his best. Hiroto thinks to himself that his mother doesn't need to know about this. He imagines her reaction with a question. Is it really true that little children talk about infertility treatments too? Hiroto looks at Wilda's body. She asks him how it is. Did he understand anything from the examination? Hiroto finds an explanation for why they can't get pregnant unless they do it every day. Vilda asks him why he continues to act like a child by doing this. He replies that he is still at an age where he should not talk about it so openly. He is sure that on Earth, just such a person as himself would find this kind of research mentally difficult. Rilda eventually asks if he can help them, and he replies that in some way it might be possible. If he uses magic, he can save them from death. He thinks it is quite possible to save their lives. Wilda spins Hiroto around, holding his hands, and shouts happily that this is great. Hiroto says that he still has to figure out how to prevent miscarriages. Wilda says that there is no one in the village who is currently carrying a child. Vilda says that if she gets pregnant, she will gladly help him. Because the ghouls preserved the fetuses using death magic, Vilda and the other girls soon became pregnant. And when winter came, Bastia came to Zadiris and Hiroto. She says that Vilda seems to glow with happiness. All thanks to him, of course, not only Vilda, but all the other girls in the village. Due to the weak viability of the fetus, ghouls had many miscarriages, so most of them died. However, their deaths could also be prevented with magic. Zadira says that thanks to him, the boy, this village will be able to welcome new friends. She's grateful to him with all her heart. Hiroto says that he is glad that he was able to help. He will watch over Wilda and the others for some time. Now all that remains is for him to make a magic item that will solve this problem. Zadiris asks if they will be able to have children even after he is gone, and he confirms this. She says that, however, it seems that this will not happen in the near future. Zadiris says that to make a magical item with the attribute of death, the boy must study alchemy. Bastia asks if it is difficult. Hiroto replies that Zadiris is teaching him, but it's harder than learning magic. She sadly says that she understands. Hiroto asks not to worry about it, because he can handle it. Hiroto asks Bastia if she is sure about her decision. While he is here, she could have a child. Bastia replies that she's sure she doesn't want that yet. If she gets pregnant now, then Ban's magic items won't be able to be tested on her later, so it's okay. Hiroto thinks that this is true, but shouldn't she worry about her age? She replies that no, since he said that he doesn't mind her appearance even if she ages a few more years. She says it sounded like the boy was her partner. Hiroto says he said that when strange rumors started spreading about him and Zadiris, it would take at least 10 years, so she shouldn't mind and get pregnant. Bastia says she is not claiming this right. She is not going to have children with Van now. She is just looking for some compensation for the experiment. She wants to ask him to be her partner for her second child. He is surprised. Bastia says it's okay. She'll just wait until he can. Zadira says it's not a problem for him. Hiroto says that in his early teens he can't take on the responsibility of being a parent. And he's not a human but a dhampir, a cross between a vampire and a dark elf. He doesn't know if it's possible for him to have a child. Bastia tells him not to worry. They, the races born from the goddess Vida, are capable of creating mixed blood offspring with each other. Hiroto asks if they could give him a break. He doesn't think attacking a 2-year-old like that is a good idea. Zadira says that in that case, he will be the father of her great-grandson. She thinks about it and says that this is also good. Here Zadira asks him, while they are here, if she has another daughter in the future, can she ask him to be her first partner? Bastia screams, what is she even talking about? Let her think about her age. She is already 290. She herself told how difficult it was for her. Zadira says she feels so young lately, she's sure she'll be fine with multiple children. Bastia asks her where she gets such confidence from. Hiroto is standing in the background, chewing a cookie and thinking that they are mother and child after all. Meanwhile, in the forest, there is a fight. Adventurers, goblins, and other animals. One shouts to a certain Katya that 2 are coming from behind. This Katya easily kills them, a kobold and a goblin. She doesn't understand and asks what's going on, why goblins and kobolds are attacking together. The guy replies that he's not sure, but maybe a monster has appeared that can unite them all. Katya asks if it could be the king. He replies that he doesn't know, but the worst thing is that someone very strong is coming here. Perhaps it was reconnaissance. They hear it growl and shudder. Hooves are approaching them. They are goblins, only much larger and stronger. The adventurer sees them. The main boss gives the goblins the command to attack. Riken remains to defend himself and shouts to the others to run. They die. Later in the lair of these monsters, everyone worships and ask Boss Bogogan that they are short of a woman, so let him allow them to take female ghouls. Bogogan asks, is it really that again? He thinks that they need to wait a little longer and they will be able to attack that very village, not allowing a single one to escape or survive. Until then, he must not expose himself to unnecessary risks. The subordinate says he understands. The fighting strength of the ghouls won't cause much trouble. But that ghoul mage is ruining everything, even though they have the advantage in numbers. It won't do any good as long as she's alive. He asks his people if that ghoul mage is dead. One old kobold replies that the ghoul mage is still alive. They are indignant because he predicted that she would soon die of old age. He replies that it is, but for some reason she is alive. She definitely should have died by now, but something happened in that village that delayed her death. Bugorogan, out of anger, kills this clairvoyant and says that he thought that at least he would be a little useful. He orders the others to add the dead man to the food supplies. Then another comes, calls him father, and says that they have returned. On his shoulder is Katya. Bugorogan says that Bubobio caught something alive. He replies that he caught 4 adventurers, 3 of them women. Everyone starts laughing with joy. Bugorogan says that as a reward, he will let him choose any of them. Bubio chooses Katya. Bugorogan orders Riken to be sent to the others. He is dragged to another place to the dead clairvoyant. Hiroto feels something is wrong. Zediris asks him if something happened. He suddenly became quiet. Maybe he overate. Hiroto asks her if she can gather everyone. Hiroto explains that there is something he must tell right now. Zediris is scared. In the evening, everyone gathers together. Hiroto announces that a horde of orcs is going to attack their village. Everyone is shocked. Hiroto says that not right now, but at least they are planning it. He is sure that they are preparing for the attack. Hiroto points to the spirit of the clairvoyant and says that this spirit gave them information. Benedo screams that he does not see anyone. Zediris says that the boy, having death magic, can talk to spirits, and besides, why would he lie? Benato says that he knows, but still somehow does not believe it. Everyone is worried and discussing the 300 orcs and 100 each of goblins and kobolds. What will they do? Their village barely has 100 heads. They even have a chance of winning in a head-on clash. Benato shouts, what's the problem? If everyone takes on 5, then they can win. The girl corrects him in the numbers. Wielda asks him if he really includes them among the soldiers, since she will have children, and the girls say that they will too. Hiroto says that it is correct. Pregnant women are strictly forbidden to fight. Benato wants to suggest something else. But he is interrupted, saying that they do not know the enemy's level of training. Bastia says that neither Vigero nor her mother can handle the noble orc. But Nato yells at her. Does she really think Vigero will lose? Vigaro shouts that, of course, it is obvious that he will lose, and then sits down with his arms folded. But Nato calms down and says that even if Vigaro, Bastia asks how about turning to the ghouls from other villages. Zadiris says that would be the most logical option, even she can't change the outcome of this battle. Vigero says that before that he has to say something. Vigero tells Hiroto that he must leave the village as soon as possible. He calmly refuses, besides, he has a proposal. Vigero yells at him not to change the subject. He will have to fight the orcs themselves, does he know? Hiroto says it's okay, he has an idea. Vigero interrupts and yells at him not to be so stubborn. He replies that he is not going anywhere and starts talking about his plan. Vigero growls again and shouts that this is a battle between them and the orcs, and that it has nothing to do with him. Hiroto says he does. They all became his companions, friends, and family. Everyone is happy, his mother is crying in the background. Vigarad wordly asks what he can do in such a place. He replies that first of all he has 3 bone beasts, a ghost bird and a skeleton soldier, as well as Sam, Soraya, and Rita, all of them at least rank 3, which is quite a lot. And he thinks when they go to other villages, he will be safe. Besides, the ghouls were affected by the death charm skill. It will be useful. Vigero thinks about it. Zadiris tells him that he should leave everything as it is. Everyone knows that he wanted what was best for the boy. Bastia agrees and says that Hiroto and the guys have already become like family to them. The same goes for other races. Wielda also agrees and says that he can't say that he has nothing to do with this. Vigero is surprised by this reaction and shouts that he knows and that later he will personally make sure that he is ready, so let him get ready. Zadiris tells Hiroto that it looks like the boss gave his permission, so he had a proposal. Hiroto says that there is nothing special about it. A huge amount of weapons falls out in front of them. They are surprised and ask where so much of it came from. Hiroto reveals that the armor and magic items he received before coming here. He has no future plans for them, so he plans to give them all to them. Zadiris picks up the weapon and says that there is some pretty good equipment here so they can fight the orcs. She says that these are valuable things and asks him again if he is sure. He replies that he is absolutely sure. He says that he got them for next to nothing. They are surprised. Hiroto says that they have a special battle axe for Vigero from the general's skeleton. Hiroto asks Vigero if he didn't like it. He replies that he will gladly accept him and thanks him, it's better that way. Hiroto turns and leaves. Vigero calls his name. Hiroto turns back to him. Suddenly Vigero says that he should be king. Hiroto clarifies, but he takes it as consent and begins to rejoice. Bastia says that everything they have now is thanks to him. Hiroto says that he said something wrong. Let them not confuse. Zadiris says that all the other ghouls also say that he is the most suitable, the king of the ghouls, the leader who leads everyone to the light. Hiroto does not understand how this happened. He asks if it doesn't matter that he is a dhampir. If the king of the ghouls is a representative of another race, will the inhabitants of other villages accept him? Zadiris explains that if it was a human then there would probably be some resistance. But since he is a dhampir, it will be fine. And he also said that he has the ability to strengthen followers. This skill is perfect for a ghoul king. The skill of strengthen followers is something that any monster that holds the title of king has. With this skill, the group of monsters led by the king is stronger than usual and their numbers are also greater, and ghouls can be affected by this ability. Hiroto asks if she remembers this from last time. But is this skill alone really enough to become king? Zadiris asks what he is talking about after all. He is the one who was able to solve the ghouls' birth rate problem. He opened up a future for them and set them on the path to prosperity. Isn't that how a true leader behaves? Hiroto never thought that solving the problem of declining birth rate could lead to this. He agrees and says that he will be king. Everyone starts to rejoice and shout. Sam congratulates his master. The girl also rejoices and says, "This is a success. They will also try to do their best." Bernardo lifts Hiroto up to him and says that they will start a celebration in honor of the birth of the new ghoul king. Hiroto asks to warn about this. Hiroto tells his mother that he is going to participate in a mortal battle. It is nothing out of the ordinary, so he tells her not to worry too much. Darcia doesn't think there is a single parent who wouldn't be worried when hearing such words from their child. Hiroto asks if he should stop. Darcia says that it is true that he always risks his life, and if he tries hard, he will definitely succeed. He should make sure that he cooperates with everyone else and does not overdo it. Kadia walks through the forest alone, completely emotionless, completely tired, with a sword. A goblin attacks her from the bushes, which she kills with one blow. The goblin falls. She goes on and stops. She looks down and calls someone weak. In front of him stands a crowd of orcs again. She throws her sword right in front of them. Ubobio extends his huge hand towards the girl, and darkness falls. A girl with dark purple eyes and jewelry admires and wonders. How beautiful, isn't it? She looks at her rings, holds a fan in her hand, and says lovingly that this is what she expected from her work. The men ask if they can talk to her yet. Another one gets scared and says that it is better to wait a little longer. Someone calls this woman Treya and asks her to make him a shield. The girl asks her to make her armor, too. Treya screams, "Can't you wait a little? You don't have to ask her every time. She'll do it herself." Her anger turns to admiration and says that it will be after she finishes admiring her new accessories. Then someone calls her again. She says again, furiously, that she asked them to be quiet. One says he just wanted to let them know they've collected more metal slime. She, her eyes shining, asks if he just said metal slimes. She jumps out, pushes him, and asks him to give her everything here quickly, and that the metal slugs have both liquid and metal properties. She is already thinking about what kind of weapon or armor to make. She wonders what she should do, what wonderful equipment she should create next. Then another one comes and shouts, calling her a boss. She asks irritably what else. She says that according to the guard's report, a strange carriage is approaching them. She asks how many there are. The girl explains that there is one accompanied by 5 ghouls, and the carriage also looks a bit like the undead. Treya says that it is possible that the ghouls from another village have tamed the undead. She orders everyone to gather immediately, especially the warriors who remain in the village and protect it. The warriors come out to meet the carriage. Treya tells the guests to stop and asks why they need her village. The Garo replies that they want to talk. He tells that a common enemy has appeared. The ghouls of other villages have already agreed to cooperate. She asks again about the common enemy. Treya looks around, closes her fan, and asks them to tell more about it. Hiroto comes out and says that he will explain all the details then. Treya looks down in surprise. There is silence. Suddenly she drops to one knee and the other warriors follow her, lowering their heads and closing their eyes. Treya herself does not understand why she kneels in front of this little child. She is now sure that this someone is definitely stronger than her. Hiroto turns to her and says that he was chosen by the Ghoul King for this task. He states his name. Treya is surprised that he knows her name. Hiroto says that he heard that ghouls flock here in search of her armor. She is a good armor master with whom no ghoul can compare. She thanks him for such words. Vigara looks at him and says he's an amazing king. He didn't think they'd fall to their knees just by talking to him. Benato laughs and says that's just the right time to talk. Hiroto finishes the story and says that he therefore asks that their village also grant them their power. He adds that, of course, he doesn't know if he can call it a reward, but he can offer something as compensation. She asks what kind of compensation. Hiroto says these are means to solve the problem of declining birth rates and items to increase the shelf life of food products. The warriors start talking among themselves and asks if this is really possible. If so, then that's cool. Treya says that if his words are true, they will gladly join them. Hiroto tells her that she can just call him Van, or boy. Treya is touched by this, squeezes his hands and says that she will fulfill his will and serve at his side. Treya thinks about raising this Ghoul King to the top, expanding his ruling domain beyond this devil's nest, and securing glory for herself as his lieutenant. Who would have thought that such a chance would come to her when she was 260 years old? Sam says that the master is still popular with older women. Darcia thinks that she has hidden agendas, but once they become a noble, such people will often visit them. So she thinks that this is the perfect practice for him. Someone has a dream or some visions of orcs capturing a woman and leading her through the village, all of them tied up women. One woman cannot stand up, but the orc lifts her up by holding her hair. and that girl with short hair is subjected to a terrible crime by Burbobio. A man in glasses suddenly opens his eyes and begins to feel sick. He holds back, pressing his hand to his mouth. The butler comes in with a tray of tea and asks him if everything is all right. He wipes himself and breathes heavily. The nobleman replies that no, it's nothing to worry about. He asks him to call the Viscount because he has an important message. He obeys him. He is scared. He pours him some tea and asks him to wait here for a bit. The man sits down on a chair, looks around, and then decides to drink some tea. He sighs and says, looking up, that his living dead have safely entered the orc village. The Viscount asks what these living dead mean. He explains that they are undead, created using magic and the attribute of life. The Viscount asks in surprise about the undead. He explains that the undead are almost indistinguishable from a living person. Although their heart and lungs work, they are classified as undead because they do not have a soul, but they are no different from a living being. However, he cannot make her face express various emotions, and she can only speak in a flat tone. This is quite noticeable to humans, but it is perfect for deceiving orcs. The Viscount asks how reliable the information received from the undead is. He bows and says that there is no need to worry. The undead shares all 5 senses with the caster. In other words, he will be able to accurately convey everything that the undead saw and heard. The Viscount says that he understands and that it is quite convenient. That way they will have the information even if she is killed by the orcs. It seems he was not mistaken in his choice. He suggests returning to the original topic, whether the rumor is true that there is a noble orc in that area, and if so, how many monsters does he have under his command? Luciliano says he still has something to add, although the separation of the 5 senses can be interrupted. He had to go through some truly horrific things to add information. The undead he controls were captured by a medium-sized company led by a noble orc and brought to their village. The Viscount says that means the noble orc really does exist. He asks how many of them there are, how large their numbers are. He says that until now he thought that there were at least 2 noble orcs, one of whom commands a medium-sized company and one who is the king of a village. However, it turns out that there are 1 or 2 more. Also, their army consists not only of orcs but also goblins and kobolds. The total number of monsters, including the monsters they keep, is from 500 to 600. The Viscount is horrified to hear such a figure. They say that the strongest noble orcs are capable of killing even dragons, and with them 600 monsters, even if they mobilize all the forces on their territory. He tells him that he still believes that the noble orcs, including the king, are not superior to humans. He says that this problem could be solved by gathering 200 high-class adventurers. The Viscount says that even if that's the case, gathering 200 adventurers, and also finding first-class, B-class, or higher, he comes to the conclusion that he can't handle this on his own. He needs to talk to someone else. He says that the orcs are planning to launch an attack in his summer. It seems that there is a group of monsters in the Devil's Nest that is not under their command, ghouls. The Viscount asks if they have any more time, and eventually says that he has a good time and will pay for his services. Now that Luciano had finally earned his travel expenses, the church's influence in this country was too strong, so the use of the undead was limited. He thinks that he will finally be able to send Oribum to the neighboring country and then find a comfortable city to live in, but the Viscount asks him to accept the next request. The ghouls put on their armor. Hiroto helps everyone so that it is comfortable to move in it with the help of magic. He says that he is correcting the shape, so let him try to move his arms and neck. He obeys. Treya says that this is the first time she's seen someone try it on like this. Hiroto says that the armor he had was only suitable for humans. If the shape wasn't changed like this, no one would be able to use it. Hiro asks for the next one. A line of armored ghouls forms in front of him. Treya is surprised that the king does such things. She makes armor, of course, but to such an extent. Bilda says that before that, he built a bunch of houses in one day using golems as expected of a king. Treya asks if they shouldn't be the ones doing all the chores for the king. Hiroto calls the next one and asks Bastia if she's feeling any pressure. She says it's too tight. Hiroto says it's understandable, since most armor is made for men. Treya says that for Bastia, who always hunts with men, men's armor would be just right. Bastia asks if that's what she needs, and then adds that she looks pretty good for someone whose appearance is trying so hard to lure men. Everyone senses a bad atmosphere. Bastia went out to greet Voglia, who was supposed to return with Treya, and she saw him sleeping in her arms. Since then, they behave like this every time they meet. Goal asks if they are really fighting over a 2-year-old child. Bastia says that Treya can't fight at her age. Is she sure she's lived 10 times longer than her? The girls start arguing over Hiroto. Bastia yells that Hiroto will give her a child. Treya is stunned by this news. She simply cannot believe that it is true. Hiroto confirms Bastia's words. Bastia asks if Treya even knows Hiroto. She laughs and suggests that Treya act her age. Treya scoffs at the girl's words and says that she is jealous that Bastia looks so mature for her age. In response, Bastia insults Treya's figure. She gets furious, and then the girls start arguing about who has the better figure. Hiroto asks Adiris if she's going to stop them, but she doesn't want to get into an argument because she's the one giving in to them. In the evening, Hiroto suggests talking about strategy against the orcs. They currently have 230 ghouls, and the orc forces are about 600 individuals. Someone is afraid that there are still fewer of them. Bastia says that there is nothing to be done. Some villages were destroyed by orcs. Another says that they were even lucky to gather so many together. Hiroto says that fighting against such a number of opponents is disadvantageous. But with the magic items he will present and Treya's superior equipment, they will try to turn this difference in strength around. But it will still be difficult. Figaro asks if he can't create golems. He replies that he thought about it, but because of the dense forest, there are too few stones to create golems. He might get a sand creation, but he won't stand up to an orc, and he doesn't think there will be any point in the newly created undead. From now on, they need to focus on tactics rather than increasing their strength. He thinks it's better to think about how to deal with their current situation. They need to catch the enemy off guard. Their village is protected only by a wooden wall. It won't stand against the orcs for even a few seconds. But the orcs have the same weak defense, so it will be difficult for them to defend themselves in case of an attack. Bastia says that she wants to save those who were captured. Hiroto says it's possible. He's already set up a plan to save them. Bastia asks about traps. They might run into them. Hiroto assumed that she would say this. After finishing the reconnaissance, he tried to make a map based on this data. It was quite difficult. The ghouls are interested in every little detail. Hiroto is surprised and asks if they have never seen a map. They answer that they have not. Treya says that ghouls don't usually use maps, so a little more explanation is needed. He says that his efforts were in vain. After 3 minutes, he explains that it is a model of an orc village made with a golem. They are happy that it is easier. Hiroto is sad because the map took so long. Figaro explains his plan about the women in the subsequent attack. Hiroto asks what's up with the orc. Treya replies that if her support is added to Figaro, who has the highest combat ability, she thinks they can take down an enemy 1 or 2 ranks higher. Figaro says he understands and asks to leave the orc with them. He will try to deal with him quickly. Bastia tells Hiroto to be careful, because his life does not belong only to him. Kirawato agrees and says that he will take care of his own protection. Plus, he still has things he was going to do. Then they set out in 3 days. Treya comes to Hiroto and tells him not to be upset about the map. If you compare it to the models, it turned out to be drawn almost perfectly. He thanks her and asks if she can read cards. She says that she used to be human. Hiroto remembers the Adiris's words and understands what she meant about the special transformation ritual.